This meeting of the Underground Safety Board.
This conference is being recorded. Only the main conference is recorded.
This meeting of the Underground Safety Board is called to order at 1:03 p.m. I'll ask the Secretary to go ahead and call roll. Bianchini.
Present.
Charland.
Here.
Del Toro.
Present.
Johns.
Here.
Johnson.
Present.
Munoz. Present. Voss.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to call attention to the fact that Member Voss is joining us remotely, and there may be moments in which Member Voss may have to step away. He'll announce that, and feel free to interject at any time, Member Voss, and just let us know so that we can make a note of it in the records. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we gather today on the ancestral homelands of the Nicenean people. Sacramento was a gathering place for many local tribes who have lived throughout the Central Valley and the foothills for generations, and were the original stewards of this land. We would like to acknowledge the southern Maidu people to the north, the Valley and Plains Miwok and Miwok peoples to the south of the American River, and the Padwin and Winton peoples to the south or to the west of the Sacramento River. Please join me in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude for our Indigenous neighbors and for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. In addition, Native American Heritage Month is observed in November to call attention to the culture, traditions, and achievements of the nation's original inhabitants and of their descendants. The official designation of November as National Native American Heritage Month was signed into law in 1990. Also, we have just celebrated Veterans Day, so we'd like to honor the generations of women and men who have served and sacrificed, not for a person, a place, or a president, but for an idea unlike any other, the idea of the United States of America. So we honor you. In regards to our safety, review of the evacuation route provided today on the PowerPoint. Do you have the PowerPoint? All right, so here we go. In the event of an emergency, please proceed out the doors in the back of the room, take a left at the atrium, walk past the restrooms, and use the P Street doors, as you see here on the diagram, to exit the building. Our assembly point is across the street in Roosevelt Park. All right. Let's talk about a review of audience participation and public comment procedure. The Underground Safety Board welcomes comments at its public meetings and appreciates listening to a wide range of viewpoints that reflect the diversity of California. Please note that comments and materials received as public comment will, in full, become part of the public record. So if you're here in person, walk up to the microphone in the middle of the room. If you're on the webinar, those attending via the webinar who wish to provide public comments, press the raise hand button, and you'll be put into the queue. And when you're instructed to do so, you can unmute yourself by pressing #2. When staff calls your name, then you'll be able to be patched in to speak. All right. So we will proceed with public comments not on the agenda. So just so that we know, and for those of you listening remotely, there is an option to submit your comments in case you're not comfortable speaking in front of everybody, to write them in, submit them in writing before a meeting. Members of the public may submit comments in writing before any public meeting by sending them to the email address listed on the agenda. To allow sufficient time for the board to receive and review written comments, please submit your comments by 5 p.m. the Friday before the start of the meeting. Comments submitted after this time may not be received by the board prior to the meeting, but will be distributed to the board as soon as staff time allows. All right. So let's go ahead and proceed to any public comments on topics within the board's jurisdiction that were not on the agenda today. Does anyone in the room have any public comments not on the agenda? All right. Host, do I have anyone on the webinar that would like to make a public comment for any items not on the agenda today?
At this time, there are no public comments.
All right. So we will move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is approving the previous meeting minutes. The next item before us is in the actions item to approve the meeting minutes from the September 11th meeting. So again, this is your opportunity for the public in person to make any comments regarding the minutes. I'll turn it over to the host to see if there's any webinar comments.
At this time, there are no comments on the webinar.
All right. So moving on to the board, board members, are there any corrections to the minutes as distributed? All right. Seeing there's no corrections to the minute, are there any objections to approving the minutes as distributed? And if so, I will entertain a motion of approval for the minutes from September 11th meeting.
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, to accept the meeting minutes of September 11th.
I have a first by Member Bianchini. Do I have a second?
Madam Chair, Member Johnson, I accept and second the motion.
Thank you. All right. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll for the vote?
Bianchini?
Yes.
Charland?
Yes.
Del Toro?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Munoz?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
All those were in favor, and the motion carries. So the minutes have been approved for the September 11th meeting. All right. Now let's move on to our item number 4, I guess. So let's move on to all of the items. Okay. We are going to take a little bit of a turn here for a second. We have a lot of enforcement items on the agenda. So we're going to open this up for public comments on enforcement items. But I'm going to make sure that this is very clear, I'm going to call each one of the cases up so that we can make sure that if there's a comment that you would like to make about a case, that you have the opportunity to do so. So if any members of the public in attendance today would like to make a comment on case C223470004, please come up to the microphone. Okay, seeing there's none, I'll move on to the webinar.
There are no comments on the webinar.
Okay, so now I'll move on to the next case, which would be 23NT S00001. Do I have any in-person comments? Okay. I'll move on to the next one, which is webinar. Any webinar comments?
There are no webinar comments.
Okay. We'll move on to D230130001. Public comments in person. Public comments on the webinar.
There are no comments on the webinar.
Okay, then we'll move on to CAS 01555 W6J5P1. In person? And on the webinar?
No
Okay,
online
so
comments.
there are none. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public comments. And we're going to take things slightly out of order today. We're going to be looking at all the cases. Let me get this right because there's a huge stack of documents here. We're going to go over all of the NOPVs having to do with case number C223470004 first. So first I'll ask the board if anyone needs to recuse themselves.
Madam Chair, Randy Charlotte, I need to recuse myself from that case.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, Marjorie Del Toro, I also need to recuse myself.
All right, well, thank you. So I'll give us a moment to let our members go to the observation room. They're going to be able to watch the proceedings, but not be able to rule on them. So while we're doing that, if I could please have member of staff from the investigation team, would you please be prepared to present an executive summary of the entirety of the case 223470004, or I can do it for you. Go ahead. I'll do it. Okay. So I'm sure all of you in person got to see the enormous amount of documents in the back, and it's public information. We want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to have the documents. It's also available online. There are a significant amount of violations associated with a case number. So the single case number has multiple violations on it. So I'll go ahead and summarize that case. So on December 13th, 2022, the Southern California Gas Company submitted a complaint that the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, Water LADWP, had refused to field mark in response to locate requests which related to installation of a gas main. That complaint led board staff to investigate 6 instances in which LADWP refused to mark. This report documents those 6 investigations. In the instance documented in this report, LADWP stated in its electronic positive response that the excavator was not going to dig within 14 days. In written statements, the LADWP explained that its decision not to field mark was based on Dig Alert's direction and that SCG was improperly using tickets for engineering work. So, as described in this summary, there are 6 tickets, and so there are 6 versions of this investigation. However, we'll go ahead and start the discussion with the entirety of the body of the case. So, who would like to start with the discussion?
Madam Chair, just before we begin the discussion, I'd just like to point out that these 6 investigations involve 2 different excavation sites.
Okay. All right. Do we want to break it down, or do we want to just do it?
I have a question, Madam Chair. Which 6? I mean, there's like 26 with this on it, and could you just do it, or tell us which items on the agenda we're discussing on this one?
Okay, let's do it that way. All right, so it would be the ones, we can do all of the ones. So the way that it worked was there was 6 cases, so there was ticket number A222840096000A. So all the ones that ended in 96 would be the City of Los Angeles investigation item 9.
Okay.
That would also be 10, 11, 12, 13. That would be, we could start with that section of it.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
I see your breakdown now.
Okay. So we can do some basics on that account. So the violation or the violation occurred according to the NOPB on 10/13/2022.
Member Voss here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I think in reviewing all these cases here, what became apparent, right, was that the main part of the case was driven around Los Angeles Water and Power, and it looks like the water division specifically refusing to go out and mark the premise. And so there was a back and forth that, in reading the investigative report that went on, till ultimately, I believe that everything ultimately got marked, but not in a timely fashion. And I think when you get back to the raw basics of the case, that they violated 4216.3A1A, no response. The real issue here is it appears to me that they didn't respond appropriately, even though they were accusing them of using this as a planning type thing. There's really, I think, per our regulations, 4216.3 A1 and A, there's only 3 responses that one can have. One is to locate and field mark within the area delineated for excavation, and where multiple subsurfaces installations of the same type are known to exist together, and mark the number of subsurface installations. The second option is to extend and decree of accuracy that the information available provided information to an excavator where the operator's active or inactive subsurface installations are located. One form of that might be a map. And then 3, of course, is advise the excavator that operates no subsurface installations in the area delineated for excavation. So really at the crux of the issue with the volumes of paper we got to look at is that what they're being accused of is they didn't respond accordingly. And I think that is correct. That they did not appropriately respond to 4216.3 section A1A. Second of all, the same department, what appears to be another, maybe the power division, just focused on them, is that they failed to do the electronic response. And the electronic response component would be 4216.3C1A, no EPR, which of course the requirement there is on and after January 1st of 2021, every operator shall supply an electronic positive response through the Regional Notification Center before the legal excavation start date and time. Upon a showing of good cause by an operator, the board may extend the time by which the operator is required to comply with this requirement. And the board shall not grant an extension beyond December 31st, 2021. Well, clearly we're beyond, that grace period, right? We're talking about 2022. And so then, of course, the board shall determine which facts or circumstances constitute good cause. So I think that picking out that one operator here, which consisted of 2 codes, LAWP3 and LAPO3, kind of sums up, I think what the crux of this is. When you look at all the other violations across the board, predominantly it's just that these other entities didn't provide electronic response at all. So I think that's the kind of my viewpoint on how I interpreted everything, and so I'm willing to step back and let someone else comment.
Madam Chair, Member Johnson. My question, as it relates to the positive response, electronic positive response, goes back to whether or not it was a valid ticket or not. And the reason I say that is I have not seen any photos of the work site, unless I missed it, because in the illustration of what type of work being done was a pothole. And if you look at the instructions on what they were doing, it didn't look like, there was potholes or there was no indications of delineation via pothole. It looks like they wanted curb to curb, property line to property line, without the proper delineation outline versus them marking up the entire street. And so there was some questions about whether they were doing design type work or just planning type work, and there was discussion going back and forth. So that's my dilemma in this matter.
Member Bianchini, just to address that, a lot of times when we're doing pothole and we're trying to determine where the pipeline can go, it's conflict resolution. So we need most of the street marked in order to determine if it can't get under or over the first utility, then what's the next and what's the next, so that conflict resolution can be resolved before we start digging and have $10,000 a day equipment sitting there.
But reading the information from the operator, the requester of the ticket, I think he indicated that he knew where his pipeline was, and so he was trying to, or he didn't know where his pipeline was, and so that's what he was trying to get marked out.
So I think something that I have found useful when I was reading this was I went back to definitions. So in 4216D, delineate means to mark in white the location or path of the proposed excavation using the guidelines in Appendix B of the Guidelines for Excavation Delineation published in the most recent version of the best practices, which is kind of what Member Bianchini is saying. If there is a conflict between the marking practice in those guidelines, provision in this article shall control. The delineation also includes physical identification of the area to be excavated using alternative markings method, but not limited to, and then it goes into the flags and stakes. But I think I think that when I read this, it looked like that they were trying to do conflict resolution to figure out where the new pipe was going to be installed and to see where the installation points were going to be and if there was change. I mean, that's just how I read this. So to me, potholing, just the event of potholing is breaking the surface of the ground. So if I looked at the converse, if they potholed and hit something and they didn't have a ticket, that would definitely be an issue, right? So I think that that's kind of that's a good discussion. So let's make sure that we really do feel that this ticket was being used in the means of delineations according to the definitions.
That's spot on, because your original potholing is the beginning of your excavation, where you're going to be able to go if you're doing it responsibly.
In this case, the pothole is where that's the point of excavation. And of course, you don't want the operators marking up an entire street when they don't need to. If it's an issue of conflict, you talk about it, but they weren't trenching. They were potholing.
Who determines that you don't need to? Because as an excavator, I need to know where everything is and then pothole it so that I know I can get that pipeline through there, or I have to have miter joints or whatever it is in order to do it. So you're determining that I don't need to see that is inaccurate. I mean, when I say you, an operator,
right. If
an operator decides that, I would be calling in on it and say, no, he refused to mark, and I still need to have those marks. It's not an option for you as an operator.
I think it is, because if you're only, I understand what you're saying, but in terms of, if you're only potholing, you should know where your stuff is, and if you want to know where you're going to actually dig, then you designate it as a diameter type marking. Hey, I'm going to be potholing right here, here, and here. They didn't say that. They just said, we're going 70 feet this way and another 30 feet this way, another 70 that way.
And
I'm doing curb to curb, property line to property line.
Yes, and in this instance, SoCal is the excavator as well as an operator,
right.
And they're looking to either replace or repair part of their line. They weren't very specific on that, and they didn't need to be, but they did want to go out there and pothole the entire street to determine.
So, Member Johns, just keeping it within the confines of 4216, that the excavator needed to get a ticket for any type of excavation. And so he would be, or they would be in violation if they didn't. So they did their duty there. They white marked accordingly. And it seems like the responsibility of the operator needs to respond to that. I think now a violation of the terms of marking and things like that need to further be discussed. But in this particular case, it's pretty clear cut that they need to respond and not just say I'm not going to respond because it's too big of an area or something. So their interpretation, I believe, is in violation. There should be, they can have other means to say that we were put out for more than we needed to do, but they need to respond is how I feel on this.
Well, I don't think they didn't respond. I think they did respond because there was communication and dialogue between the companies. But in this case, for some reason or another, someone felt that they were just planning. They were not actually excavating.
So
it seems though that they didn't mark the field mark like they should. So that's the violation. To me, that's their duty. But it needs to be, I mean, they should have recourse for having to do more work than they should be, and if they violated the terms of how it works, should be separate, but the initial reaction to the ticket, I think they need to respond.
So I think, just to keep us on track here, there's no violation that has to do with field mark. Most of these are no electronic positive response, and then one is no response. So just not the individuals, just the whole of the violations are dealing with 4216.3 C1A, which is no EPR, and the other one is 4216.3 A1A, which is also no response, and so that's no responses without the three options. So I think there's a couple things happening here that we just need to break apart. So number one, if we are asking, and I haven't heard this before, so this is something new, and I just need clarification from the board members. If we're asking that potholing, if we're saying that potholing is not part of excavation, this is the first I've ever heard of it, because anytime we pothole, that's considered excavation. And as such, in a street specifically, you could pothole and see that the pipe bends in a very strange way that you didn't expect. So if you only delineated that little tiny area that you wanted a pothole, then that prevents you from going hey, why did the pipe change? Why did, there could have been a tree there 50 years ago, and so they went around the tree, but they've since got rid of the tree. So those things have happened, right? So everything takes weird turns in the street, and all of a sudden So I think it's safest, if we're focusing on public safety, that there is the ability to be able to trace that down, so we don't have we've read in other cases where we had boring issues, or we had things took a funny turn, or they couldn't track it down. So that's one issue. I think that I need clarification from everybody here on this board. Are we suggesting something new that I haven't heard before? Because that's kind of where we've been as a board.
Yeah, we're not saying it's not excavation and no ticket was required. The question for me is that whether it's a valid ticket. And if it wasn't a valid ticket, then them not responding is not valid. That's my point. But,
I think when you turn a ticket in with an intent to excavate, regardless of whether you're going to hand dig, you're going to use a chisel to break through the asphalt, whatever. Remember, Johnson, you and I were on the potholing committee and determined what tools could be used for that. And in the reverse of that, there's a lot of times where we don't have a choice and we have to excavate by vacuum because there's too many utilities in the way. And that's another way to determine it as you're potholing and you see how close some of them are. So in this case, the operator was an excavator and wanting to excavate, and it's clear cut that if somebody didn't respond to them, either electronically or failed to respond to the ticket itself, that's a violation of our code. They don't get a pass. There was a legitimate ticket.
So So let's just take that for a second. Are we all in agreement that this was a legitimate ticket, that this was for an excavation? Is there any evidence in this report that's to the contrary, that these tickets were anything other than for excavation?
No, it was excavation.
Okay. So if that's the case, then what the law requires us to do, as an excavator and as an operator, is to respond within the confines of 4216.3C1A. So the next question would be, did everyone respond? Do we have any evidence that people responded and it just wasn't captured? I didn't see any, so it looked pretty clear-cut that there was no EPR responses from the people listed, the entities listed on the investigation ticket, the ticket number ending in 0096. Does anybody disagree with that?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So there's a bunch of events that happen around that. So if we're looking at the whole ticket as a whole, that's kind of the gist of it. But let's just take it by the 96 area. So in that 96, do we want to have any further discussions? So we had some reservation if this was a legitimate ticket. We've all now decided that this was for excavation. So therefore, we are in agreement. If not, please correct me, that we must comply with the requirements of 42163A1A and 42163C1A. And if so, all of the NOPVs associated with this ticket would be valid, unless there's evidence in here for something other than that.
I don't believe there is.
Okay, so here's the thing. This is where this is super tricky. We can move on to the next ticket and save all of the NOPV rulings till the end, so we could just do the next ticket and kind of talk through it. Or we could do them in groups. We could do and any of the NOPVs having to do with 0096, all as a section. In some ways, it might be better to group them by entities, so we can go through all the entities, but then we can get through all of the tickets in case there's specifics. I like the ticket idea because there was a lot of stuff going on. And then as Ms. Bannerman had said, there's 2 locations, so just want to make sure that that's clarified in all of this. Is there any objection to moving forward on the next ticket?
So, Member Johns,
Yeah.
I do see that the electronic positive response, we need to confirm that they did, in fact, respond or failed to respond.
Yeah.
And then I think just really for discussion, DWP technically responded, but their response was they added their comments about unable to mark and perform the duties.
Right.
So to me, is that a response? I mean, it is electronically responding, but did they in fact respond?
Yeah, because they put a 043 code, response code on it.
Yeah. Member Voss here, Member Voss. If you notice, there's 2 member codes for LA Water and Power.
Mm-hmm.
And so P3, if you look in our cheat sheet there, LAWP3 is a different, it's the same, goes back to Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, but they're not being accused of not doing electronic response, only being accused of not marking or appropriately.
Madam Chair, if I would prefer to elect to finish these 6 and then move on to the next group, just so we could flip them over.
Sounds good.
Okay, that sounds good. It's probably more straightforward that way.
Yeah.
I see discussion happening over there. Do you guys want to stop me for a second? This was a lot of information. Sure.
Madam Chair, for this investigation, I misspoke earlier. The ticket, each ticket series corresponds to a different location, so there's a total of 6 different excavation sites. And we did not issue Los Angeles Department of Water and Power member code LAP03, an NOPV for any of the ticket series.
Okay.
That's correct. They're not on the 6, yeah. I'm not sure what staff is, these all have this 6 all have the same address, North Broad End near East D in Wilmington, California.
All of the ones ending in 40096.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those are all the same addresses. Okay.
Okay, so
we're all in agreement there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, so just to be clear, all of the tickets having all of the NOPVs, so I'll just read it. So the violations for Los Angeles Department of Water and Power member code LAWP3, Government Code 42163A1A was failure to respond to locate requests from a call center in one of three ways before the legal excavation start date and time. 1, locate and mark the work area. 2, provide information about the location of subsurface installation. Or 3, that there's no installations are within the work area. So that would be under this same ticket that ends in 40096. Then the next one would be City of Los Angeles, member code city, or LASTLI, which is Government Code 42163C1A, which is a failure to provide electronic positive response. Then the next one would be LA County Public Works, flood maintenance, member code LAF53, which again is the same, 42163C1A, which is failure to provide positive electronic response. And then we'd move on to Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, LAPO3, which is Government Code 42163C1A, failure to provide positive electronic response before the legal start date and time, like the other ones. Paramount Petroleum Corporation member code PPC01, which is, again, a violation 42163C1A, failure to provide electronic positive response before the legal start date and time. And then the final one would be Southern California Gas Company, Distribution San Pedro, member code SCG3Z9, and again it's for 42163C1A, which is failure to provide EPR by the legal start date and time. So that's all of the ones under the ticket A2284009600A. So that's the first investigation under this ticket. So I think it would be easiest if we just kind of broke it down into the way that the investigation does it, which is it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 entities listed as potential violations. We kind of discussed it. Do we have any recommendations that are in opposition to what staff is suggesting are violations?
No, I don't.
Did we clarify everything out there? Is it okay? Okay. Okay. So it's interesting to note that in regards to these, there was some response. There was SoCal Gas Company sent a letter with a no contest, and so that's the one response we got from this investigation and this ticket number. So this is a lot of information. If there's no more discussion, let's just take it one at a time. I think going in an order, we'll just consistently go in the same order each time. So do I have any, since SoCal Gas said no contest, do I have a motion for the violation proposed by staff, which is for SoCal Gas, that they were in violation of 42163C1A, which is failure to provide EPR prior to the legal start date and time?
Member Bianchini, I'll make a motion that item number 13 on the agenda, SoCal Gas, and with their notice to us that there is a no contest on this entire incident that was sent to them by staff, that we find that we should order them to do our safety training, board safety training. So
we're finding, so just to clean that up a little, make sure I understand, you were finding them in violation.
I am.
With the sanction of Education?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Secretary, did you get that? Oh, yes. Legal counsel? Should we break it up?
It would be great if you could make those motions separate. First find them guilty or find them in violation and then offer them a sanction.
Okay.
1 and 2? Okay, well,
thanks.
Thought I did when I said that they said no contest. They were guilty, but yeah.
Okay.
I can clarify that. I make a motion to find Southern Cal Gas on item number 13 guilty of violating Government Code Section 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide electronic response.
Do I have a second?
Member Johnson, second.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion by Member Bianchini and a second by Member Johnson. Madam Secretary, can you please take the vote?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now the next part would be the sanctions portion of it. The recommendation is education by staff. So if we're all in agreement with that, we can have a motion. If there's any discussion, if we want to go a different way, please jump in here. All right, so I'm ready for a motion.
Member Bianchini, I'll make a motion that at the request of staff and SoCalGas that we have them and provide the correct people to engage in our safety program.
Member Johnson, second.
Okay, thank you. I have a first and a second for sanctions. For SoCalGas, Madam Secretary, can you please take the vote?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
and Voss.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to the next person or the next entity, I guess. Let's do the pipeline. Let's go into
Item number 11 on our agenda.
Wait. That was just one entity, so let's go to Paramount Petroleum.
Yes.
Next. Yeah. So we did SoCalGas. Now we're going to do we have any discussion on Paramount Petroleum, or are we good with the same EPR, no more EPR response?
Member Bianchini, I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we find Paramount Petroleum in failure to provide electronic positive response per Government Code Section 4216.3 C1A. And this is pursuant to item 11 on our agenda.
Member Johnson, second.
Thank you. Okay, I have a first and a second. Madam Secretary, can you please take the roll?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
and Voss.
Yes.
Okay. I'm taking everything out of order. Everybody's worst nightmare, right? Let's move on to... let's move on to sanctions.
Yeah. We have to find
Sanctions.
them for sanctions. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to sanctions.
If I may interrupt again?
Yes.
Your sanctions should be recommendations to specific entities.
Okay. Do we need to go back and fix?
No, you're
Okay.
good.
I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Member Voss, were you trying to say something?
I'll do the next motion.
Okay, so we're on the petroleum, item number 11. We're on Paramount Petroleum Corporation with proposal for sanctions recommendation.
Yes, Madam Chair. Member Voss here, I move that we recommend to the Office of the State Fire Marshal that it find Paramount Petroleum Corporation in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
I have a first by Member Voss. Do I have a second?
I'll have a second and possibly include the California PUC if that's necessary with this pipeline entity.
They're not under PUCs.
No?
No,
Okay.
Fire Marshal. Okay. So we're going to keep it with the motion so far is for Paramount Petroleum Corporation, violation of 4216.3 C1A, with a sanction recommendation to OSFM. Madam Secretary, can you take the vote?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
All right, so that carries. So now let's move on to Los Angeles County Public Works, and that one, Public Works is 12. So that's action item, decision on NOPV Los Angeles County Public Works investigation, the same investigation, but 0096. Do we have any discussion on that one? They have the same 42163C1A, which is failure to provide EPR prior to legal start date and time. Okay, so if we have no further discussion, do we want to go ahead and make a motion on that one?
Member Voss, I'll go ahead on that one.
Okay.
Okay, Member Voss, I move to find Los Angeles County of Public Works in violation of 4216.3C1A, failure to provide electronic positive response before a legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. I have a first and a second. Madam Secretary, can you please take the roll?
Bianchini?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Munoz?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Okay, looks like that carries. And now let's move on to sanctions. Staff is currently recommending the board's education course. Do we have any discussion on that, or would we like to make a motion to be in alignment with that?
Member Voss, I'll make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion to have the Los Angeles County Public Works fulfill.
Let me read it off.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles, let's see here, Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors that it find the Los Angeles County Public Works in violation of 4216.3C1A-A, and that they be ordered to the board's education course.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
Member Johnson, second.
Member Johnson, second. Okay. Secretary.
Bianchini?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Munoz?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Okay, that carries. Okay, now let's move on to the NOPV to City of Los Angeles investigation. The same one, and the NOPV was in 42163C1A, which is, again, it's the failure to respond with electronic positive response. Do we have any discussion on that? Are we in alignment with the recommendations that they are in violation, or is further discussion needed?
Madam Chair, is that agenda item 9?
Yes, it's agenda item 9. I'm sorry. I'm jumping everywhere, guys. Sorry.
Member Voss, I'll make a motion. I move that we find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4260.3C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Member Johnson, second.
Okay, thank you, Member Johnson. Madam Secretary, can you please take the roll?
Bianchini?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Munoz?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
All right, that one carries. Now let's discuss sanctions. Staff is recommending the mandatory completion of the board's education course. Is there further discussion on this, or are we in alignment with staff's recommendation?
I think we're in alignment. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah. Member Voss here, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles City Council that it find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3C1A, and that the City of Los Angeles be ordered to take the board's education course.
I have a first motion on the floor by Member Voss.
Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Secretary, can you please take the roll? Bianchini?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Munoz? Yes. Oss?
Yes.
Okay, that one carries as well. Now we can move on to item 10, which is decision on NOPV to Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. This one's slightly different, which we can discuss in more detail, but the proposed violations of Government Code 42163A1A and 42163C1A with proposed sanction of mandatory completion of the board's education course and a financial penalty, the amount of which will be determined by us, the board. So what makes this one different? Let's discuss that one. Why is this one different? Let's start with that. Why, let's talk through that one.
Member Voss, again, they did not, in my opinion, they did not respond accordingly from the excavator's request for Government Code 4216.3 A1A, where they had three choices, right? To locate and field mark, or to provide information regarding the location of their lines, which could in one example be maps, or advise the excavator that there wasn't anything, it was all clear. And they did neither three of those.
Okay. I saw some discussions from legal down there.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify that there's only one violation for LA that you're discussing? Not two.
LADWP?
Yep, because apparently they pulled the other one.
Okay.
So the 999 response has been pulled for LA for all 6 tickets. So for LA, we're only looking at failure to respond.
Okay, so that's... If I understand that, Madam Chair, for all the LA water and powers, we are not doing 4216.3A1A.
Okay.
And so it's only electronic positive response.
Just the opposite. That's
The opposite?
one you are doing. The response where he kept putting in 43.
They did 99.
So we're not finding we're
Yep.
pulling the electronic positive response. Okay.
I think it might be helpful if we look at the member codes. So there's 2 listed on the investigation, and there's 2 different member codes. So for Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, member code LAP03, those NOPVs for all of the ticket series were not issued, and that is not, those NOPVs were not issued. But for the member code LAWP3, that NOPV was issued.
Okay.
And that's only for 4216.3.3A1A.
So just to be clear, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power has 2 member codes. One, it appears to be for power, and the other one for water and power. But are we saying that for the water and power, they did not have a violation of not responding in 48 hours?
No, sir, they're saying that they're not charging them with that at this time.
So did our investigative team retract that now?
Yeah.
Correct.
It looks like it.
Okay, got it. All right.
So it looks like all we have is 42163A1A, which is failure to respond to locate requests from a call center in one of the 3 ways before the legal excavation start date and time. 1 is locate and mark the work area. 2 is provide information about the location of subsurface installation. And 3, which is state there's no installation, are within the work area. So that's what we're going after, LAWP3. Yes. Okay. So that's it. I got it. Okay. Discussion on this one, I think, Member Voss, if I heard you correctly, it's because of the response that they gave, which is we're not going to mark, basically, because we don't think this ticket deserves to be marked, which is kind of what Member Johnson was saying in the beginning. And that's like a really to me, that's a really sketchy area. If I'm a homeowner, so let's take it back just a little bit further, right? Like if I'm a homeowner and I say I would really like to plant this tree in my front yard, I'm going to call in a ticket, and they said, well, we don't really think you need a ticket, and then I went out there and blew myself up, that would be a real big problem, right? I think that there's people in every situation, right? There's always the human element, and it doesn't seem that one person was really, it seemed like they were focusing on the resources, the amount of time, rather than the real crux of it is the safety element. There could have been a lot of area to cover, there could have been, but it seems like we defined that there was an excavation taking place. I don't think that the operator was focusing on that safety element, which is the requirement to respond when their excavation is about to take place, which was pretty evident from all of this documentation that there was an excavation about to happen.
That's a really great analogy, because if somebody's sitting back in LA and turns around and go, well, you want to plant a tree that's design, and you don't know where you want to plant it yet, so you're gonna try to pothole for design. We don't do that.
Right. So that's kind of how I took it. Like, I'm always reading these thinking, like, what does the average person think? Because at the end of the day, the average person is the one making the decisions in the field, right? They're not the policymakers. They're not legal. They're just an average person that's executing the law according to what they think is best. And I want to give, kudos to everybody for pushing through and still following the requirements, and even to the point of, putting in a complaint saying, hey, we really think that this should be done, because if LAWP3 was responding in such a way to an entity as large as, as the one that made a complaint with SoCal Gas, how many other smaller entities have probably heard something similar, and how many other risks could have been taken because maybe they didn't do the safe, they didn't get the ticket, maybe they didn't go out there with marking. That's kind of where my concern would be. I know that's not necessarily relevant to this case, but that's something that is to consider, that although they did send a response back, it is concerning. We want to encourage lots of safe practices. So.
Member Johnson, so what is the recourse? You got them going back and forth, and do you go back to the investigative board, or to our board, or to our staff and say, hey, we're at a crossroad here, what do we do to resolve this issue? Because one's saying no and the other one is saying yes, so what do you do? And then you can't move forward, and I think if I read correctly, they did move forward, right?
Yeah, they ultimately moved forward, but I think...
And technically, you're not supposed to move forward.
Yeah, so I think the way that I read this is, it almost seems like their initial response is to say, oh, you don't really need the ticket. It's not really urgent, or it's not really an excavation. Even though it's an excavation, it's just they don't have resources. That's how I read his entire email response. Was it's really focused on around how many resources they had. He says, there are multiple responses. Mr. Chow was not planning to dig in the next 14 calendar days. If someone calls in a USA ticket and does not delineate the proposed excavation white paint, we are not required to guess where someone may excavate. All of these things that he was saying were contradicting to what was provided. So it's like, I don't know that you can not believe a ticket when it comes in. That just sets a bad taste in everyone's mouth, right? Like, I'm getting a ticket that says I'm going to excavate after this legal start date that I'm supposed to have, and then I say, well, you're not going to excavate, so I'm not going to go out and go do your mark out. That seems strange to me. That doesn't seem right.
Member Johns? Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you here and citing that same response. So that it did say that LADWP responded to first revised ticket that I'm referring to on, it did say, concerning with lack of markings from LADWP water, if you have any questions, please contact. Work will start on 10/15/22 per John Chow. Mm-hmm. So, and then LADWP's response following that says on the revised ticket on October 12th, saying, excavators not digging within 14 days, pre-planning. Seems like they're contradicting what they're being told, which doesn't seem like they should be doing that. He's kind of making his own rules, or they're making their own rules, so I believe they're willfully violating what they should be doing.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I agree with that. And so I just kind of want to go back to that feels very willful to me, because they restated, we are going to dig, we are going to excavate. Can you please come? And they say, you're not coming. You're not really going to excavate, so we're really not going to come and mark that out. That seems super dangerous, and it seems like that's a something that could lead to really, really catastrophic events. We've been given this before to kind of determine how to make a decision, but I just want to point out here that you said willful, and so there's a requirement for what is willful, which I have 7,000 piles of papers here, so sorry. There is a requirement for willful, and I'll find it right now, but is there any other discussion on this topic while I find this other document that I had saved out?
I'm not going to speak for the utility in this case, but, when you get thousands of tickets, of course, you want to make sure that they're doing what there's, it's work that's going to be done within the 14-day period. Again, I don't know who talked to who and what the discussion was, but there was dialogue between the two. And so where they get the information about, no, they're not going to be digging within the 14 minutes, I have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
And so there has to be some mediator or someone to kind of say, when you got this concern or this issue, where do you go? Because even with the tree and the homeowner, I mean, you want to make sure that you make the right decision. Of course, always you want to always mark and get it out of the way, but it can go either way. And so, it's pretty much behoove both parties to kind of resolve and work it out.
Well, Member
Johnson, they both need to do that, and so, but there's a good argument on one side, and I understand what the chair is saying, but.
Sorry, I'm citing the ticket from what it says here, that the first ticket, the ticket included a statement, it says, from SCG, concerning, which saying that they contact John Chow, work will start on 10/15. So the ticket says that. So it seems like they're contradicting the ticket now to come back and say they're not going to start digging for 14 days. And to me, it's like, you need to stop everything at this point. You can't be dictating from your office that they're not going to do it as a exhibit design ticket or something.
Right. Who you believe in? Who said
well, it's on the ticket, so I'm just following what it says. Yeah.
Well, and that's all we have, right? So we can't we have to believe what's on the ticket, otherwise the ticket has no value. The words on the ticket have no value, so we have to believe the ticket. So if the ticket says I'm going to dig, and then you say, no, we don't really believe you, and then you say again, no, I'm really digging, I promise, and you're saying, no, I don't believe you, that's a problem.
Member Bianchini, just let me be clear to Member Johnson. When I call in a ticket, I'm not giving you an option. I'm requiring you to do it pursuant to 4216. If you're taking an option on yourself and stuff like that, that's why we're here, and that's what we're talking about. Somebody decided that they weren't going to dig on time, and that wasn't the fact. Because when you call in a ticket, everything should then go by 4216 unless other arrangements are made. We don't have any evidence of other arrangements.
Just many tickets coming, well, not as many, but there are a percentage of tickets that they say they're going to do it and they actually don't too. So you got to keep that in mind. I understand what you're saying, but that's your company, but that's not everybody.
Well, the law is not written for resource management. It's written for safety, right? So if it may be true. It may be true that there could be times where people are misrepresenting themselves on a ticket. That may be true, but that can't be an acceptable reason not to respond.
But staff is working on an issue of the increased volume of tickets. and some of the things that we need to look at as an option.
Yeah.
But not related to,
important.
yeah, it's not related to this investigation. It's not related to this NOPV. All we can do is go by what's documented. So I think then the question comes back to if the intent, if the requirement 4216 is you put a ticket in and then you have the appropriate response from the operator in that area or the operators in that area, that's what this is about. So just as a reminder, what does 4216, what does this requirement require us to do? Let's read it, because I think that's really important at this point, because we're converging a bunch of ideas all together. Let's find it, 4216.3. But if you guys want to, do we have, is there another thing that we're thinking about? It seems like did they in fact respond as they were required by law? I guess that's the main crux of this whole thing.
Madam Chair, the member Voss here, that's my whole point, that they didn't respond appropriately. They could either marked it or told them all clear or gave them a map.
Yeah.
And I concur with Member Voss.
Okay. So it says 4216.3A1A, unless the excavator and operator mutually agreed to a later start date and time, or otherwise agree to the sequence and time frame in which the operator will locate it and field mark, an operator shall do one of the following before the legal excavation start date and time. So I didn't see any evidence that there was a mutual agreement to a later start date and time, and I didn't see any evidence that there was an agreement to a different sequence or time frame. And because I didn't see that, the operator will locate and field mark, because the other things didn't happen, in one of the following ways, which is which is located and field mark within the area, the delineated for excavation, and where multiple subsurface installations are of the same type are known to exist together, mark the number of subsurface installations. 2, to the extent and degree of accuracy that the information is available, provide information to an excavator where their operators' active and inactive subsurface installations are located. And they could have done that one too. Or 3, advise the excavator it operates no subsurface installation in the area delineated for excavation. So the way that I read this, there is no evidence that there was any kind of mutual agreement. So the operator is required by law to provide those one of those 3 things.
Member Bianchini, I won't take offense if Member Johnson votes no. If the motion is carried, it's not, it's up to your principles.
Okay. So if we're at an impasse, we can keep discussing this, or we can just make a motion one way or the other.
Carl?
Member Voss? Let me see if we can do this without screwing it up. I move to find Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3A1A, failure to respond to a locate request from a call center with one of the following. 1, locate and mark. 2, provide information as to facility locations. Or 3, indicate there are no subsurface installations. I think that's it.
Okay, I have a first by Member Voss.
Member Bianchini, I'll second that.
Okay. Madam Secretary?
Bianchini?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Munoz?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Okay, so that carries. So now we need to talk about sanctions, and this is where the willful has appropriate applications. So there's some appropriate sanctions. If the board finds there is a violation, sanctions will be discussed. All of the following shall be considered to determine whether to assess a sanction for a violation of the Act or this division. So we can look at the type of violation and its gravity, such as risk of actual injury, death, or environment or property damage. We can look at the degree of culpability, which may be measured in part by whether there were intervening acts or omissions by other persons. We can look at respondents' histories of violation. We can look at respondents' history of work conducted without violations. We can look at efforts taken by the respondents to prevent the violation, and once the violation occurred, the efforts taken to mitigate the safety consequence of the violation. So those are things that we can consider in this sanction part.
Member Bianchini, this is where I would agree with Member Johnson that Mr. Chow should be the number one named person on the education for this, because his feeling is entitlement to make that decision, and wherein it's not in the law to do so. So, I mean, if we're going to request their education from our board, that it would have to include Mr. Chow and any of his staff that supports that same ideology.
So Mr. Chow works for SoCal, the gas company.
Oh, he was the gas company making saying that. Okay, so it's
Fraser Campbell.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarifications, because I read these a week ago. So
yeah, so I think
ad nauseum.
So just to kind of just rephrase what you're saying is that it sounded like there wasn't one individual kind of making this decision, or
if there was, or his staff, you know. So I don't know that I'm a type of a sanctions person, other than this guy really needs to be educated. You know, if it continues, I would concur. But
okay. So the sanction options that we have here we have a sanction option for education and education with fine if we find that the violation has the willful element to it. There can also be there's other conditions under B, but they're all kind of very much similar. The respondent voluntarily notify the one center board or jurisdiction state agency. There was cooperation. There was appropriateness based on the size and ability to conduct business. The economic benefits gained from the violation without any reduction because of subsequent costs. There was one or more letters received. So there's other factors, but we probably should discuss willfulness. Since that was brought up, because that is directly related to our ability or the support for sanctions when we are considering them after we've determined that there was in fact a violation.
So, Member Johns, I do believe this goes beyond just education for this, just seeing how it was persistently addressed to say we're not going to do it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think in order for this to be course-corrected behavior, in order the enforcement agency on this would be the board, and I think the board would very much probably take the education portion or all of this more seriously if they saw that there was this rose to the level of having any kind of monetary sanction. They would probably take this far more serious. And it goes back to what I was saying. If they were this comfortable to tell a large agency, no, we don't think you're going to really excavate after the second ticket, this is really showing a pattern which kind of goes with this considerations for sanctions.
Well, you're talking about two large utilities, and so they should be able to work things out between those two. So maybe this communication needed to improve and get better. But you're talking about two major utilities that work together on the boards together. So I don't believe that at this point. I think there's a learning lesson based on the outcome of the decision being made. But a monetary, I don't see that. Member
Bianchini, we have a couple of attorneys in the room that I'm not going to ask this question of, but I will tell you that I'm doing 40 years of construction litigation. Willful is probably one of the hardest things to prove, that somebody has that willful intent. He might have been arguing, like Member Johnson said, back and forth of the need or so forth, but willful is a very, very, tough thing to prove, and you send that to their board. We don't have evidence of willful, but willful, but he would have to be saying, no, I'm telling you right now, we didn't do anything. We didn't need to mark that, and I'm going to stick to that. And I don't see that in this, or didn't see it when I read it.
So the items that I'm reading are what we can use. So we can use the type of violation, gravity, such as risk, actual death, injury, degree of culpability, history of violations. So instead of the word willful, we're using specifics. So respondent history of work conducted without violations, efforts taken by the respondent to prevent the violation once the violation occurs. So like for that one, number 5 would be like, hey, we didn't mark it the first time, so we're going to take the steps now to go out there and make sure that we mark it now that you have a second ticket or a third ticket or a fourth, you know what I mean? But we got to the second ticket and they dug their heels in. So if we're looking at appropriate sanctions, I would think there's evidence that after they realized there was a violation, instead of correcting it, they went and doubled down on saying, we don't believe that you're going to dig. So I can agree with what Member Johns stated in his discussion of how he saw the response.
Member Voss here, I don't know whether I can put it in the willful bucket. It just, after reading everything, it looked like 2 schoolyard kids in a fight, and then one finally gave in. But I don't know. As far as monetary, I think with an entity like that, I think and I'm just going to throw it out there. I think we need to do a minimum of 1,000, a maximum of 5, and just basically saying we're not going to tolerate this behavior. When you're asked to mark, you better go out there and mark it, or follow the law and either provide them a map or tell them there's nothing there.
So Member Johns, once again, I concur with Member Voss. I just feel like we need to have a monetary penalty, just to state that very point that you can't disregard the ticket process. And then a future discussion for the board is addressing these issues that Member Johnson's brought up, of how to white line and issues with how much space and coverage. But yeah, when it comes to the ticket, it seems clear.
And I think too, Member Johnson's point, like these entities are used to working together. So we did get a response from one of the entities that were working together saying, hey, you know what, no contest. But we didn't get a response from LADWP saying, hey, you know what, we were wrong. So this is, again, a red flag to me, is that I think this goes into the idea that we just need to send the message that you must comply, you must mark, so that we don't continue to see this. Because this could have gone really bad if it's a smaller entity who was told no twice. They might have just acted without having the markouts occur.
Are we ready for a motion?
I think we're ready. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Member Voss here. I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles Board of Water and Power Commissioners that it is find the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3A1A, failure to respond to locate a request from a call center with one of the following: locate and mark, provide information as to facility locations, or indicate there are no subsurface installations. And that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course and pay a fine of $5,000.
So did we already do the violation? Just a point of clarification? Okay.
Yes.
So then the sanction's appropriate. Okay, so then do I have a second? Yeah, so do I have a second for the sanction, for the motion of the sanction?
Member Johns, I'll second that.
Okay. All right, so first and second for a sanction of education and a $5,000 fine. Madam Secretary, can you please take the roll?
Bianchini?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
No.
Munoz?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. All right, so now we can move on to the next one, or we could take a, no, let's keep going. We got a lot of these to do. So we're done with this one. Let's move on to the next one, which will be, again, now we'll do it very similarly. Now we'll go through all of the ones that have to do with item A222840105. That's the ticket number. And again, so for those of you following along, the case number is still C223470004, but it's in connection with that ticket that I just read off. So again, the executive summary is very similar. On December 13th, 2022, SCG submitted a complaint that the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power had refused to field mark in response to locate requests which related to installation of gas main. That complaint led board staff to investigate 6 instances in which LADWP refused to mark. This report documents one of those 6 investigations. For this incident documented in this report, the LADWP stated in its electronic positive response that the excavator was not going to dig within the 14 days pre-planning in written statements. LADWP explained that its decision was not to field mark and was based on dig alert direction, and that SCG was improperly using tickets for engineering work. So very similar to the other one. The location of this was on October 11th, 2022. Southern California Gas Company contacted Dig Alert indicated that it planned to dig potholes on Le Cuvier Avenue, I don't know how to say that one, near East D Street in the city of Wilmington. Dig Alert created that ticket number A2228401050008 at 6:50 a.m. That ticket required operators to respond and indicate that the legal excavation start date and time was 5:01 p.m. on October 13th. So, again, this, and I'm just summarizing because these get confusing, but in his interview, this again, John Chow, which we talked about in the last investigation of SoCal Gas, stated that the work area was delineated. So everything else, we can go from there, but staff is looking at violations for member code LAWP3, which is Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, for 42163A1A. Which is similar to the last one, or is exactly the same violation as the last one, but with a different ticket. And then the City of Los Angeles Department, with that, the City of Los Angeles 42163C1A, which is the failure for electronic positive response. That same violation is recommended for Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and Paramount Petroleum Corporation and SoCal Gas Company. So, very similar to the last. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, so we're talking about item 15 on the agenda now?
Yeah, so now we're going to 14, 15, 16, 17, and that's it. So 14, 15, 16, 17, we're going to talk about the case as a whole, and then we'll break it up by entity again.
Okay.
So just in case you were wondering what makes this one different is this is at a different location. The last one was at North Broad Avenue near D Street in the city of Wilmington. And this one is on the street that I can't pronounce, which is Le Cuvier Avenue at near D Street. So how do you say this word, Le Cuvier? I don't know. It's a French word, I think. Okay. So that's this one. So who would like to start up the discussion? It seems like the pattern of behavior was very similar, if not identical.
Member Voss here, I don't know if there's, maybe I missed it in our earlier discussion, if there's even though it was a different location, it seems like it's going to be the same, or same circumstances here. I'm not going to recommend that we fine them for each one. I'm thinking what we just initiated was well and good, but I'm just wondering, is there any way that we can streamline this going forward, or is that not an option?
I'm streamlining it as it is right now. Otherwise, we'd have to do each one at a time. So we could just make motions to go through and just, if we all are in agreement that it's the same and the same behaviors, then we can kind of emulate the last motions to determine if there's a violation, would be step 1 for each of the entities, and then step 2 would be to determine the sanctions.
Member Voss here, I'm in agreement that we take the short course on each one if we can, as long as everybody on the board is agreeable. And keep the conversation short if we can.
So I'm going to start at the same then. I'm going to start with SoCal Gas Company just because they made it they made it easy on all of us, is that they said that they were not in opposition. So that is 17, item number 17. They sent a letter of no contest to the violation 4216-3C1A.
Well, ironically, against their own complaint.
Right?
Yeah.
They were like, we complained, and yes, we were wrong.
Yeah.
So.
Should be easy.
So we could just start with a motion to determine if we find them in violation.
Okay, Member Voss here, I move to find that Southern California Gas Company in violation of 4216.3C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Do I have a second?
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay. Madam Secretary?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to sanctions. Staff is recommending the completion of our education course. Do I have a motion to accept the staff's approved sanctions?
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the PUC, Public Utilities Commission, that it finds Southern California Gas in violation of 4216.3C1A, and that Southern California Gas be ordered to take the board's education course.
Okay, do I have a second?
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay. Madam Secretary?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to Paramount Petroleum Corporation.
Member Voss here, I move to find Paramount Petroleum Corporation in violation of 4216.3C1A, failure to provide electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Excuse me. I believe they sent in a response that you haven't discussed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll have their response here. So I'm gonna table your motion because it was a beautiful one, but we're gonna come back to that one. Their response was, good morning. I work for Delec U.S. Holdings, the parent company to Paramount Petroleum Corporation. It has come to my attention that PPC was served with above reference and attached subpoena from the CA Department of Underground Safety Board regarding property in Wilmington, California. PPC does not own property in Wilmington, California. This property was sold over a decade ago to World Energy. I've listed below a contact at World Energy who is aware of this matter, and the subpoena is in question. You should be hearing from them. So my initial response is, I don't care, really, because you should have updated your maps, right? That's what we say all the time. So I think that they're just saying that they don't own property, but they're not saying that they didn't respond. They didn't say that these aren't their utilities. So this is kind of not really clear.
Member Bianchini, yeah. I mean, when they got the ticket, they could have said this is no longer our property, and therefore you need to contact X.
Yeah. So I feel like there's an action out of this. So I would ask that staff follow up on this, because we do have a requirement that we're supposed to update our polygons at the call centers.
Well, part of the education too.
Yeah, so that would be part of the great point. It's part of the education, but I think there is a potential for a different type of NOPV if they're not updating their records, and if they're saying that they don't own it, then they have the due diligence to be updating all those records, because how many times are people calling and then maybe nobody shows up and then nobody's notified, and that's putting even more danger out there. So I would this one probably frightens me more than anything in there because this is a huge, unwanted surprise that could occur.
Member Bianchi, it's almost as bad as abandoned lines.
Yeah, yes. What they're saying is they're abandoning this could potentially be that they're abandoning an entire system, which I'm so worried about all the time. So, if staff could please follow up with that. And then now we can move on to, that beautiful, motion that was in.
I will second that motion.
Okay, so we're gonna take that motion out of the table. It's live again, and I have a second from Member Bianchini. Okay, Madam Secretary.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay.
Member Johns, on that letter too, response from Paramount, he did say that they agreed to attend the training.
That's the pipeline one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This
that's
is the one. This is the one.
Oh, I got you, okay.
Yep.
One's Inc., one's Corp.
I know. Okay. All right, so now we're going to the topic of sanctions, and staff recommended sanctions from the fire marshal, or to the fire marshal for education. Do I have any motions for that?
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Office of the State Fire Marshal that Paramount Petroleum is we find that they're in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that Paramount Petroleum be ordered to take the board's education course.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
Member Bianchini, I'll second that and just add to it that it's Paramount Petroleum Corporation,
Okay.
since we have a second one on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, so that one carries. Let's move on to the next one. So those are the two that we have responses from. So let's now go back to City of Los Angeles, which is item 14. I'm making you work so hard, whoever's controlling this. Is that you, Madam Secretary? Poor thing. I'm sorry. Okay. So similar to the last one, but this is 42163C1A, which is, is that the right one? Yes. Which is EPR again. Do we have any additional discussion, or do we want to just go into the motion for violation? Are we in agreement with staff's recommendations?
I believe so. Member Bianchini.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready for motion?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, Member Voss, I move to we find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay. Okay, roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, now let's move on. Now that we've established violation, let's discuss sanctions. So the sanction for the city would be education with a recommendation to the Los Angeles City Council.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the City of Los Angeles that it find I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles City Council that it find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the City of Los Angeles be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, Madam Secretary?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, that one's done. Let's move on to 16, or 15, sorry about that, which is the NOPV to Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. And this would be proposed violation of Government Code 4216, let's see, 3A1A.
Yeah. Yep.
Do I have a motion, or do we want to discuss further?
Member Boss here, I think, bottom line is a similar offense to the first one. Does everybody agree?
Yes.
Okay, Member Voss here. I move that we find Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3A 1A, failure to respond to locate, request, and mark. Is that right? Or from a call center with one of the following: one, locate and mark; two, provide information as to facility locations; or three, indicate there are no subsurface installations.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay. And roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay, sanctions. We discussed earlier about the education, and then Member Voss, you said that you don't feel comfortable doing multiple fines on each one of them. So I'm okay with whatever you guys want to do. If there's one fine, that's good. Sends the message.
So Member Johns, yeah, I'd like to at least refer to the fine for the one that they're all in violation and refer to that fine. I don't know if we can word it that way or provide the,
I don't know, technically, if we can reference it back to the case that we made that ruling.
I think they're gonna get both actions, so they'll understand that they were fined once, as in my opinion.
yeah.
Each violation and sanction should be separate. You shouldn't be referring to others unless you're
Right.
accumulating and saying, but they're all getting this notice at the same time.
Okay. So are we okay with just one fine then on the first one?
I am.
As long as they recognize that everything's, I guess they're guilty, or we're saying that they violated. So yeah, I'm okay.
So, Ms. Harrington, do we need to make some kind of a motion referencing that we've already did the sanction on the first one? How do you suggest?
Do we want
I
to
think,
do $1 on each one after this, just to show like it's all connected?
$1 or something?
We could do $1 on the rest of them, and just to show that they're all connected.
Good.
Okay. I'm good with that. Okay,
Are legal good with that? Okay.
okay. I can't see. Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles Board of Water and Power Commissioners that it find the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3A 1A, failure to respond to locate request from a call center with one of the following: one, locate and mark; two, provide information as to facility locations; or three, indicate there are no subsurface installations. The order that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course and be fined $1.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay. Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. I think that's the last one in that section. Let's see, what time is it? I guess we could take a small break before we start the next one. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4 more to go, and maybe I can discuss with legal and see if we can combine them all and then separate them all. So should we do that? Take a break for 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start back up again. And I apologize to our fantastic secretary. I've been jumping all around on item numbers, so I'm going to try to stay, everyone please help me keep her on on track with me because I'm the one jumping. We're going to start with the investigation. Again, we're still on the same investigation, 223-470004, but this time we're going to be focusing on the ticket A222-840118. And we are going to just start kind of again with an executive summary just to kind of remind us of what we're discussing. So this
Madam,
one is similar.
Can I just, so the C223-470004, now we're on the -0118.
Yes.
On if you're following it on your agenda.
Yeah, so it'll be the agenda items from 18 all the way to 23.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so so this is similar. On December 13th, 2022, SoCalGas submitted a complaint that the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power had refused to field mark in response to locate requests which related to installation of a gas main. The complaint led board staff to investigate 6 instances in which LADWP refused to mark. This report documents one of those 6 investigations. So again, let's talk about where this was at. On October 11th, 2022, SoCalGas contacted Dig Alert indicating that it planned to dig potholes on, oh no, that word again, Le Covier Avenue. How do you say it? Le Covier Avenue near East Street in the city of Wilmington. So we're moving down a little bit. Dig Alert ticket created a new ticket, which is A222-84011800A at 6:53 a.m. That ticket required operators to respond and indicate that the legal excavation start date and time was 5:01 on October 13th, 2022. So this is very similar, just a little bit different of a location. I think if you read through, all of the investigation, you'll find that the behaviors are in alignment with everything that we have seen so far. In this case, we're going to go over the violations. Staff is recommending that Los Angeles Department of Water and Power water member LAWP3 is in violation of Government Code 42163A1A, which is failure to respond to a locate request from a call center in one of the 3 ways before the legal excavation start date and time. In addition, it found that the following entities, City of Los Angeles, City LASTLI, LA Public Works, LAF53, LA Department of Water and Power, member code LAPO3, Paramount Pipeline, LLC, member code PARPIPE, and Paramount Petroleum Corporation, PPCO1, and Southern California Gas Company, SCG3Z9, were all in violation of 42163C1A, which is failure to provide positive electronic response before the legal start date and time. If there's no discussion on this, if we're all in alignment, we can go ahead and start with item number 23, which is to focus on the discussion of the Southern California Gas Company and the violation proposed by staff, which is 42163C1A again.
Madam Chair, this is Member Voss. Just out of curiosity, is there any reason we can't follow the agenda in order?
The only reason I'm starting with this one is because SoCalGas has had no contest, so there's a little bit different. And just to remind everyone, in case we wanted to have more discussion, SoCalGas already said they are in no contest with the violation as presented by staff. So I'm just going in order to who responded. So in case we have more vigorous discussion, we can kind of move them toward the end.
Okay. Well, with that, Member Voss, I'd like to move that we find Southern California Gas Company in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide electronic positive response before the legal start date time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second that. We're on action item number 23.
All right, roll call, please.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
All right. Now we'll move on to Paramount, sanctions. Sorry about that. We'll go ahead and move on to sanctions for item 23. We have now established that we have found SoCalGas in violation of 42163C1A. Let's discuss sanctions. Staff is recommending education.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the California Public Utilities Commission that it find Southern California Gas Company in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay. Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay. Now we can move on to Paramount Pipeline LLC, which is item 22. The proposed violation of Government Code 42163C1A. Regarding this case, the respondent sent a letter of no contest. We have confirmed ticket A228401118, the one on East E Street and the Covier Avenue. This one was a no conflict that Eric marked out, but an electronic positive response was not sent. So they are in agreement to attend the training as recommended. We will be moving to another system that will correct this in the future and be in compliance. So that's their response. So do I have a motion, or do we want to do further discussion?
No. Member Voss, I move that Paramount Pipeline LLC is in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, now let's move on to sanctions. It appears that they agreed to complete the education, the mandatory education. Would we like to have discussion or move to a motion?
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Office of the State Fire Marshal that it Paramount Pipeline LLC in violation of the 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay. So 22 is done. Let's move on to 21, which is the NOPD to Paramount Petroleum Corporation. The proposed violation is 42163 C1A. Again, there was a written response, and the written response is that they don't own the property again. So just another action again, just to follow up on the updating of records in the area. If there's no other discussion, would anyone like to present a motion?
Member Voss, I move that we find Paramount Petroleum Corporation in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Do I have a second?
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
All right, let's move on to sanctions. Staff has recommended that they complete the mandatory education. If there's any other further discussion, otherwise, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Office of the State Fire Marshal that it find Paramount Petroleum Corporation in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay, so now we'll move on to Public Works, item number 19. Okay, the proposed violation of Government Code 42163C1A was recommended by staff. Is there any discussion? If not, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we find Los Angeles County Public Works in violation of 4216.3C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay, now we'll move on to sanctions. Staff is recommending completion of the mandatory education. Is there any other discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles County, County Board of Supervisors that it find the Los Angeles County Public Works in violation of 4216.3C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
All right, moving on to item number 18, which is the NOPV to City of Los Angeles investigation. The proposed violation of Government Code 42163C1A. Would we like to have further discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Member Voss, I find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to sanctions. Staff is recommending the completion of the board's education course. Do I have a motion?
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles City Council that it find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
All right, so now we move on to item 20, which is the decision on NOPV to Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. This one's slightly different. This one is proposed violation of Government Code 42163A1A. We have discussed this in detail previously, but if we'd like further discussion, or we could just move to the motion.
Member Voss, I move that we find Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3A1A, failure to respond to a locate request from a call center with one of the following. 1, locate and mark. 2, provide information as to the facility locations. Or 3, indicate there are no subsurface installations.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to the area of sanctions. We discussed this previously, that staff has recommended the completion of the mandatory education course and a financial penalty. We already fined them $5,000 on the previous and $1. I'm ready to entertain a motion, or we can have further discussion.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles Board of Water and Power Commissioners that it find the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3A1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course and also pay a fine of $1.
Member Bianchini, I'll second that.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Munoz,
Yes?
Voss.
Yes.
All right, that completes all the cases for that, that completes 18, that end in 18. Now we'll move on to the next section. The next cases are, under the same investigation, C-2234700004, but this time they are in regards to ticket number B-2233-20138, -00B, which would be 24, action item 24, 25, 26, 27. So, just to start off again, I will just go ahead and do an executive summary, and then we will find out how this one's different, because it's at a different location, and who are the proposed entities that are looking at the violation. So, very similar, on December 13th, 2022, SCG submitted a complaint that the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power had refused to field mark in response to locate requests which related to installation of a gas main. The complaint led board staff to investigate 6 instances in which LADWP refused to mark. This report documents one of those 6 investigations. All right, so on November 28th now, 2022, the SoCal Gas contacted Dig Alert indicating that it planned to dig potholes on West Harry Bridges Avenue near North Marine Avenue in the city of Wilmington. Dig Alert created ticket number B223320138-00B at 8:38 a.m. The ticket required operators to respond and indicated that the legal start date and time was 5:01 p.m. on November 30th, 2022. So very similar to what had happened previously, there was a complaint issued that there was a refusal to mark. It's almost identical. So the staff recommends the following entities were in violation. Let's get back to that page. So Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, member code LAWP3, was in violation or is in violation of Government Code 42163A1A, failure to respond to locate requests from a call center in one of the 3 ways before the legal excavation start date and time. 1, which is locate and mark the work area. 2, which is provide information about the location of subsurface installations. Or 3, that no installations are within the work area. And then the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation, member code City LADOT, City of Los Angeles, member code City LAST LI, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, member code LAPO3, and Southern California Gas Company, member code SoCal Gas Distribution San Pedro, were in violation of 42163C1A, which is failure to provide positive electronic response before the legal start date and time.
Excuse me. I just wanted to remind you that there is not a violation on the table for LA giving a 999 response, because I think you just read that. LAP.
03?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So I'll take that one off. Okay, so then we only have the 3 entities, which would be the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation, and then the City of Los Angeles and SoCal Gas. All right, so who would like to start the discussion? Is this case?
I'm sorry, who got dropped? Transportation?
No, LAPO3.
Which
item number?
Which one do you want to do?
I think it's 24.
Madam Chair?
No, it's none of these.
Which one?
No, it's none of these. It's Department of Transportation, Department of Water and Power Investigation.
Hang on just a second, Carl. We're trying to figure out which one's dropping.
The agenda doesn't list it that way, so let's see.
So agenda 26 has both violations. You're just removing one violation out there, right?
So it's just the back half, yeah.
Yeah, we're eliminating the second one on that.
The 26,
Second
the
one,
second.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's all of them.
Where would you like to Start, Madam
Let's
Chair.
start at the same one with item 27.
Southern California Gas.
Yeah, and the same applies as has been the case previously. They issued a response letter with no contest.
Okay, Member Voss, I move that we find Southern California Gas Company in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response for the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I second that.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, sanctions. Staff is recommending the completion of the board's education.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the California Public Utilities Commission that it find Southern California Gas Company in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second that again.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, so now we can do them pretty much in order. Let's see. Let's just go to number 24. All right, so number 24 is the City of Los Angeles investigation, which is the proposed violation of 42163C1A. Do I have a motion, or is there further discussion needed?
Member Voss here. I move that we find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response for the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
All right, let's move on to sanctions. Staff is recommending the completion of the board's education course. Do I have a motion?
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles City Council that we find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second that.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
All right, let's move on to action item 25, which is decision on NOPV to the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation, the proposed violation of Government Code 42163 C1A. Do I have a motion?
Member Voss here. I move that we find the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Right. Let's move on to sanctions.
Member Voss, I move to recommend to the Los Angeles City Council that we found that the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
All right, moving on to 26, which is the decision on NOPV to Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, proposed violation of 42163A1A. Further discussion, or I'm ready for a motion?
Member Voss, we find that the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3 A1A, failure to respond to a locate request from a call center with one of the following. 1, locate and mark. 2, provide information as to facility locations. Or 3, indicate there are no subsurface installations.
Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to sanctions. Further discussion or a motion?
Member Voss here, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles Board of Water and Power Commissioners that we find the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course along with a fine of $1.
Bianchini, I will second that.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay. So now we can move on, that's everything for that case. Now we can move on to same investigation, C223470004. But this time, we're going to be focusing on ticket A22332025400A. Everything is similar to the last one. With the change, I'm going to just read where the ticket and locate request is. On November 28th, 2022, the SoCal Gas indicated that it was planning to dig holes on North Marine Avenue near West Harry Bridges Avenue in the city of Wilmington. Dig Alert created ticket A223320254-00A at 8:54 a.m. That ticket required operators to respond and indicated that the legal start time was 5:01. So all the events happened similarly to the other, and staff is making the recommendations for determination of violations on items 28 through 33. No, wait.
231.
231. Okay, so we're going to start at 31. 31 is SoCal Gas. Again, this is covered by the letter. SoCal Gas issued a letter of no contest. So we could have more discussion, or we could start right away with a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we find Southern California Gas Company in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
No. I mean, yes. I'm sorry.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to sanctions. Staff is recommending the completion of the board's education course.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the California Public Utilities Commission that it find Southern California Gas in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
All right, now we'll move back again to, let's see.
28.
Yeah, we'll move to 28, City of Los Angeles. This is for the proposed violation of 4216.3 C1A. We could have discussion, or we could start with a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second that.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Let's move on to sanctions. The board is recommending, the staff is recommending that the entity, City of Los Angeles, complete the board's education course. Do you have any motions?
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles City Council that it finds the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent should be ordered to take the board's education course.
Bianchini, I'll second that.
All right, roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
All right, so that one's done. Let's move on to 29, which is the NOPV to the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation with the proposed violation of 42163C1A. Further discussion or a motion?
Member Voss, I find that the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation, in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second that motion.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Sanctions. Board, the staff is recommending that the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation complete the board's education course. Do we have a motion?
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles City Council that it finds the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, now we'll move on to sanctions.
No, we just did
Wait,
We
we
just
just did
finished.
sanctions. Sorry.
30.
30, sorry.
30.
Let's do 30. Decisions on NOPV to Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. This one is the one where we have 42163A1A. Further discussion, or we can start with a motion.
No, Member Voss, I move that we find the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3 A1A, failure to respond to a locate request from a call center with one of the following. 1, locate and mark. 2, provide information as to facility locations. Or 3, indicate there are no subsurface installations.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, now sanctions.
Okay. Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles Board of Water and Power Commissioners that it finds the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3 A1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course and be fined $1.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Munoz,
Yes. All right.
Voss,
Hey, wait, you forgot me.
Yeah, don't
Sorry.
loss.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Let's see. Now we're moving on to the next one, C223470004. And this one is in ticket 8, it's A223320254-00A. All right, this one's similar to the other one with, is that the right one? Yes, 54. This is similar, but here's the executive summary on this one. On December 13th, 2022, the Southern California Gas Company submitted a complaint that the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power had refused to field mark in response to locate requests which related to installation of a gas main. That complaint led board staff to investigate 6 instances in which LADWP refused to mark. This report documents 1 of the 6 investigations. Let's see. Then it goes on to, on November 28, 2022, SoCalGas contacted Dig Alert indicating that it planned to dig potholes near North Marine Avenue near West Harry Bridges Avenue in the city of Wilmington. So there's the ticket number A223320254. It's at 8:54 a.m. that required operators to respond and indicate the legal start date and time was 5:01 p.m. on November 30th. All right, so this has to do with items 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36. Oh, is that all of them on this section?
Mhm.
It is all of them in this
Yes.
section. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Those in the observation room, you probably need to get warmed up to come back. So we'll start with 36 because SoCalGas once again sent a letter of no contest and agreed to complete the board's education course. So we can start with further discussion or we can start with a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we find Southern California Gas Company in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I second.
Okay, roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Let's move on to sanctions, which would be the completion of the education course.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the California Public Utilities Commission that it find that Southern California Gas Company in violation of the 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay. So now that one's 36 is done, we'll go back to 35 because they sent us a written response. And again, their written response is that this property was sold over a decade ago to World Energy, and they've listed a contact below their claim of not having ownership. We have an action item to follow up on the maps and to make sure that the polygons are correctly represented in the dig alert system. Okay, so with that, we can have further discussion or we can move to a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we find Paramount Petroleum Corporation in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to sanctions.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Office of the State Fire Marshal that it find Paramount Petroleum Corporation in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
All right, let's go to roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
All right, now we can go back in order. Let's start back up at 32. And this item is on the NOPV for the City of Los Angeles investigation with the proposed violation of 4216.3 C1A. We could have discussion or we can go into a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
All right, let's move on to sanctions. Staff is recommending the completion of the board's education course. Do I have a motion?
Member Voss, I recommend to the Los Angeles City Council that it find the City of Los Angeles in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
All right. So that item is done. Let's move on to 33. So 33 is a decision on the NOPV to the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation for the proposed violation of Government Code 4216.3 C1A. I'm ready to take a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we find the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation in violation of 4216.3 C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call?
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Sanctions. Staff is recommending that the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation complete the board's education course. I'm ready for a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles City Council that it finds that the respondent City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation in violation of 4216.3 C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
All right, roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, the last one for the big packet investigation of C223470004 would be for the NOPV to Los Angeles Department of Water and Power with a proposed violation of 42163A1A. I'm ready to have discussion or for a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we find the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3 A1A, failure to respond to a locate request from a call center with one of the following. 1, locate and mark. 2, provide information as to facility locations. Or 3, indicate there are no subsurface installations.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Let's move on to sanctions. We've kind of discussed this before. We sanctioned a $5,000 fine, $1 and $1, and I think another $1. So we can have further discussion on how we want to proceed with fines, or we could entertain a motion.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the Los Angeles Board of Water and Power Commissioners that it find the Department of Water and Power in violation of 4216.3 A1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course along with a fine of $1.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, so that concludes all of the items related to that huge investigation of 223470004. And now we will go back and we will complete the action item number 5, which is the decision NOPV to ARC Plumbing, which is investigation 23N2S00001. So I'd like to invite anyone back that's not here currently, that doesn't need to recuse themselves, to participate in the next NOPV.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we commend and thank Member Voss for his organization
Yes.
skills and his motion writing.
I would like to add to that, that boy, is he on his game when he doesn't have to drive from Bakersfield here.
Well, thank you for understanding. It was a pleasure.
No worries.
I think he's still out. Okay. Okay, so we're ready to move on, or move to the next one, which I think I have lost now. Oh, here it is. So we can start with the proposed violation of Government Code 42162B, 42164C2, and 42164C3. I can do an executive summary on this one, unless you guys want to do it from the investigation team. Nope. Okay. So on July 17th, 2023, ARC Mechanical, doing business as ARC Plumbing, or maybe it's ARK Plumbing, excavated using a shovel without first contacting the regional notification center and damaging a 1.5-inch ADL natural gas line operated by the Southern California Gas Company. After causing the damage, ARC or ARK Plumbing called the Southern California Gas Company but did not telephone 911 or notify the regional notification center within 48 hours after the incident. Okay, so as we said previously, the main violations are, there's 3 of them, so we can discuss them one at a time, or we can just do this as a packet. Let's just kind of maybe just start with the first one, which is 4216 2B. Oh, I'm so sorry. You have to catch up. I'm sorry. Item 5, okay. Which is the failure to notify the regional center before excavating. So the first violation was failure to notify the regional center before excavating. I did not see evidence of a ticket. Is there any further discussion on this?
Member Voss, as I recall, they may even have admitted that they didn't submit a ticket either.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to Government Code 4216 4C2, which is failure to call 911 emergency services upon causing the damage. Does anyone want to start the discussion off in that area?
Member Bianchini, I don't recall seeing any record of a 911 call from either ARC or any notice of it.
Yeah, there was nothing, no information about him calling at all.
All right, so I didn't see any evidence to support that either. Okay. The next one is 4216 4C3, failure to report damage to the regional notification center within 48 hours. And this one is a little tricky because he says something weird here, or he says something here that I couldn't find anything to contradict or support it. Let's see. Is it 6, 7, 8?
Member Voss, in Exhibit 8, there's a reference that that he did call.
Yeah. Can you say that again, but look at the mic?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Member Voss here. On Exhibit 8 of the investigative report, on the narrative here at the very last bullet point, it says an unnamed gas company guy told Esteban Cimental to call the regional notification center to report the damage to the natural gas line at blank Palm Desert, California, and he did.
Yeah, so I didn't see any evidence that he did or did not call. I didn't see any ticket or anything one way or the other, so.
Member Bianchini, I'm wondering, though, that it might have been hard for Dig Alert because there was no ticket to tie it to, but it does, I noticed on the bullet point above, they said they did not call 911, so that there's our actual proof there. But yeah, on or number 2. But on this one, there's no evidence other than this that he says he did. No time, no date, no who did he talk to or anything.
Okay, so that would be a gap in either the reporting, the investigation. I don't see a ticket for that one way or the other.
Well, maybe we could ask Ms. Diamond if somebody called and report. Kidding.
I think we have to stick with what's in the investigation.
Yeah, based on the investigation.
Yeah.
They checked and there was no ticket for the excavation, but didn't get into detail about if there was a damage ticket called afterwards, but there was no indication.
Okay.
The call was made.
I'm in agreement with all of that. Okay. Any further discussion? Because it sounds like, just based on this, that we have, from the investigation itself, which is all we have to go off of, is that we have support that there was no evidence of calling to get a ticket prior to excavation, so there is a violation of 4216-2B.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just clarification, says during this interview with the investigator, stated that they, ARC Plumbing, did not contact the Regional Notification Center after damaging the SoCal gas.
Where are you?
That's on
What exhibit?
Exhibit 8, 6, and 8.
Which page were you reading from right now?
That one, this page.
He did not call 911, but then it says he did call the Regional Notification Center. Is that what you're reading?
The investigator report, so...
Now, on the narrative on Exhibit 6, I think what Member Johnson's pointing out is said that they did not have a ticket from the regional center on the job, and he did not call.
But that's an interview there with the owner, right?
Yeah, the owner.
Yes.
And so wasn't it Esteban Semitol Jr. that was making the contact?
It says here, like, exhibit number 6, third bullet, fourth bullet, second bullet. It did not have a ticket from the regional call center.
At the job, right? At the original job. Okay, so that's support for number 1, that they didn't get the ticket in the first place. So I think we have support for number 1, that they are in violation. So let's move on to number 2, which is that 42164C2, which is that failure to call 911 emergency services upon causing damage. And they say in a few places that they didn't call 911. Did anybody find anything to contradict that?
No.
Okay.
That'd be exhibit number 8.
Yep. Okay. So in Exhibit 8, he says that he did not call 911. So it looks like we have data to support that it is a violation for the second item. And then here's where I'm not sure that we have evidence: the failure to report damage to the regional notification within 48 hours. So it looks like in Exhibit 8, he called an unnamed gas company guy, told Esteban to call the regional notification center to report the damage to the natural gas line at Palm Desert, California, and he did. They don't know what day this did or did not occur. I don't have any tickets.
Nope.
Does anybody have anything in this investigation that we missed?
No, I'm.
Other than the statement, that's all you have.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember Bianchini, I think we would need a little bit more evidence than he did from an unknown gas employee.
So how do we do it? Do we say we err on the caution that he did not call because we don't have evidence, or do we err on the side that maybe this report is missing the ticket?
He said he didn't call.
No,
He said he did.
he said he was told by an unknown SoCal gas person that he needed to call the regional center,
Right.
and it just says he did. I don't know that that's evidence that he failed to report it.
So there's a potential that he did report it to the regional center within 48 hours.
But there's no indication of a damage ticket.
But is that because there isn't one, or is that because?
You know, what they normally do is the process that they'll go ahead and, if there was no original ticket, they'll create an original ticket and do a damage ticket.
Right, and we don't have either one of these. So, but it doesn't say that that's my only caveat, is it doesn't say that there's no ticket. This report doesn't say that there's no damage ticket.
I think the violation is the failure to report. That's what it does say, that he didn't report.
Yeah, the original. So how do we want to do number 3?
So we're missing evidence. Can we put it back and vote on it later once we get more evidence, or we gotta just?
I think this is it. We gotta
Vote on
roll
in here?
what we have
Okay.
in front of us. So let's see.
Okay, if you look at exhibit number 5, no tickets for the residents, there's no tickets found by the one call center at all, so.
But it's all for the date of the incident, yeah.
Strictly on the evidence, you don't have it. You don't have any evidence that he actually called.
Right.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying, is it that there was no call after the incident either? Or is this, because they're just asking for July 17th?
Well, probably the good thing about all this is we can make sure we address it under education.
Right.
Mhm.
Since we don't have the evidence that he did make that call, then I guess we should proceed that he didn't.
And they were given notice to present.
Correct.
They didn't, so.
So are we in agreement there's not enough evidence to support that he did call?
Member Voss, make that motion.
All right, well, let's start with I think we got to start with the first one, right?
I think you do all of them. And
Okay, well, let's, well, do you want to do it, we've been doing them one at a time. Won't take that long.
You could do all this, because we did the other ones together.
Well,
this
no,
is-
you want to do all 3 charges in one motion?
Yeah, we could do them all together.
No, you don't.
Council.
We have to do one at a time?
You want to do each charge separately?
Each one.
Yeah, we'll do each
All right.
one separate. Okay,
Okay.
we ready? Okay. I, Member Voss, find that Arc Mechanical doing business as Arc Plumbing is in violation of 42-116.2B, failure to notify the Regional Notification Center before excavating.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, let's do a roll call. Bianchini?
Yes.
Del Toro?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson? Munoz? Yes. Voss?
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the next one, 42-16-4C2, which is failure to call 911.
Okay. Any more, we've all finished discussion. So I move that we find Arc Mechanical doing business as Arc Plumbing is in violation of 42-16.4C2, failure to call 911 emergency services upon causing damage.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
All right, let's do a roll call. Bianchini?
Yes.
Del Toro?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Munoz? Yes. Voss?
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the next one, 42-16-4C3, which is failure to report damage to the Regional Notification Center within 48 hours.
I, Member Voss, move to find Arc Mechanical doing business as Arc Plumbing in violation of 42-16.4C3, failure to report damage to the Regional Notification Center within 48 hours.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
All right, let's do a roll call. Bianchini?
Yes.
Del Toro?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Munoz? Yes. Voss?
Yes.
All right, now we can move on to sanctions for all of them together? Sure. Yes? I think so, because we've done it before. All right, let's move on to sanctions.
Do we have any evidence that this contractor is aware of notifying the Regional Notification Center? I didn't get any sense in here that they had any experience doing it, although you would think being a licensed contractor, they would.
Yeah, we've had this discussion several times before where if they are a licensed contractor, there's an expectation that this is learned and part of the requirements to get your state contractor license. So that's something that we've discussed, but we can discuss that in more detail.
Member Bianchini, it's on the exam.
Yeah. So it would behoove,
I would remind the board that there was a written response,
okay.
right? Or no, that was Reliance, right?
It's the next one.
Okay,
The
never
next
mind.
one.
Not remind the board about a written response that does not exist.
Yeah, for the,
Nice retraction, wow.
that was fast. Okay, so we got nothing for A. Okay, so I think we've talked about that before, and I think that's an important issue that we probably need to just keep stressing back, when we make these recommendations, back to CSLB, that this really just needs to be focused on for anybody, especially plumbers. They're under the ground.
So, Member John, I do think that, yeah, in fact, he's using a hand shovel and stuff that it's ignorance, and he should learn, but if it was power equipment or something, I'd have a lot different feeling about it.
Member Johnson, my concern had to do with them voting back the natural gas line and strapping it. Very dangerous, and I know they do teach that.
They do
And you
teach
should
that.
be aware of that, from a safety perspective.
I agree with that, and there's so much stress, I think, on getting a job done for a contractor at a home. Like, they're all competing, they want to hurry up and get the job done. I think this, this is a really dangerous type of work. So I think, surprisingly, I know that the recommendation is a financial penalty. I don't know how I feel about this, but I'm open to discussions on this. I think not calling 911 is a big, huge issue. Like, this could have been so ugly, right? We've seen this before. There's also the fact that they didn't report it to the regional center, or we couldn't find any evidence that they didn't report it to the regional center, and we found them in violation of that. It's just one thing after another. They didn't go back and fix it. The only thing that they did was contact the gas company, but I didn't really see a lot of evidence that they were trying to make it right, like to really fix it so that this doesn't happen again. What do you guys think for financial penalties? I think we're all in agreement on education, because I think that's come up a couple times. So, and the other thing,
Member Bosser, I don't know, historically, for first-time violators, we haven't been real aggressive in the fining. As we go forward, though, you have a licensed contractor. If a fine was going to be part of the sanction, I wouldn't go over $1,000.
Member Bianchini, can we just leave that to the license board? And any further action they would require, either suspension, they're going to do whatever they're going to do after that.
yeah, I think that's fine. I think I know that they're probably going to listen to what we're saying. Hopefully, they're listening now, right? That they really take into account that we've seen quite a few of these smaller contracting companies having these issues, and some of it is I didn't know, or it wasn't at the expected depth. I think just getting the ticket is going to help with a lot of that, because we haven't seen that. So I'm okay with not having a fine, unless someone else has a burning desire to impose a fine on this first-time offense.
I just want to make sure that we're consistent. I mean, we've done things in the past, and if we're not consistent, it's going to jeopardize some of the things that we make in the future.
In the past, when we've issued a fine on first time, it was because they typically they were in violation with the willful. So maybe we should go back to that and see if, not the willful, but the violation sanctions, the items to consider when we're assigning sanctions. So we could talk about these help us make the decisions. The type of violation, its gravity, such as risk of actual death, injury, and environmental property damage. So there could have been some serious things here. Degree of culpability, which may be measured in part by whether there were intervening acts or omissions by other persons. I think in the past, there was some omissions or attempts to conceal during the investigation. So I don't know that I see that here, but maybe in the fact that in one statement they say that they called the regional center, and another one they said they didn't call the regional center, but it could be two different people, not really what they didn't do personally. Respondent's history of violation, respondent's history of work conducted without violation, efforts taken by the respondent to prevent the violations. So those are the big things that we have looked at in the past.
Member Voss, I'm okay with just recommending education at this point.
Okay.
Member Johnson, so is there anything in the training relative to precautions you need to take in the event that you hit a gas line?
I think we just give real-life scenarios of what can happen. We took that approach.
I mean, it is in the law.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it could have been catastrophic.
It
It could have been catastrophic.
Based on what he did. I mean, if you just let it free flow, and that's what you're supposed to do, let it flow, as opposed to pinching things off and folding them back, which would have resulted in more of a damage.
Yeah, I think there should be some financial, even if we just did 1,000 like Member Voss said originally. Because this could have been catastrophic, right? So at some point, you got to give that message. And it's not a large amount. It's $1,000, but it still gives a clear message that could have been catastrophic.
So that's in alignment with our appropriate sanctions.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone would like to make a motion?
Member Voss, I move to recommend to the California State License Board that Art Mechanical doing business as Art Plumbing is in violation of 4216.2B, 4216.4C2, and 4216.4C3, and that we recommend, the board recommends that the respondent be subject to the board's education course along with a fine of $1,000.
I second. Member Del Toro, second.
Okay. Roll call. Bianchini?
Oh, you're not going to start with her? Okay. Yes.
Del Toro?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Munoz? Yes. Voss?
Yes.
Okay. So now we can move on to action item number 6, which is the city of Atascadero Street and storm drains. Item number 6 and 7 have to do with investigation D230130001. Can anybody come back from the observation room? No? I don't know. Let me look. Was he able to come back? Nope. So no observation, no release from the observation room. Okay, so let's move on to that one. So let me read the executive summary on this one. All right, we'll just get right here. On September 20th, 2022, Southern California Gas Company contacted USA North to provide notice of work related to repairing a gas leak at 4195 Lobos Avenue in Atascadero, California. On the date, USA North created a ticket number X226301882-00X, which required operators to respond and which indicated the work start date was 5:01 p.m. on September 22nd, 2022. All right, so that's the gist of it.
Madam Chair, do you want to start with item number 7, which is SoCal Gas, because we have their...
Yeah, they have them.
They turned in their
Let's start with
no
them.
contest.
Let's start with the ones that sent us their letter. So let's start. Sorry about that again. I'm doing it to you again. Number 7.
No, you're doing
So
fine.
sorry. So sorry. So we're going to move on to action item 7, which is the Southern California Gas Company. And they did send us a letter that said no contest. They found that they agreed, well, they at least said no contest to the violation. So that violation was 42163C1A. Would anybody like to start that discussion?
I think the member Voss, I think the fact that they admitted they were wrong and that Exhibit 3 clearly says that they did not respond timely, I think we're good to go.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. Member Voss, I move that we find Southern California Gas Company in violation of 4216.3C, 1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, let's do roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Del Toro,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
All right, let's discuss sanctions. Staff is recommending that the completion of the board's education course. Do I have a motion?
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the California Public Utilities Commission that it find the Southern California Gas Company in violation of 4216.3C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Del Toro, I second.
Let's do roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Del Toro,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
All right.
Madam Chair, need
Yes.
a point of clarification.
Yeah.
We've seen quite a few different cases that involve SoCal Gas, and it just says education. Are we saying that they have to, just one course would meet the criteria, or are we saying that they have that many times they have to attend the training courses? How would that work?
Good question.
Staff, do you guys have an answer for that?
Got to do the training course for each
Yeah.
violation.
Yes. Each violation has its own penalty or sanction associated. Each sanction must be met separately.
So what is that? Let me see. That
We've
is,
got
They have
7
plenty of people to
training
attend.
sessions coming up for
That's
SCG.
they have 7 potentially.
Training, of our training.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that one's done. So I did 7.
Back to 6.
Now we can go back to 6, which is the City of Atascadero Street and Storm Drains, and the proposed violation is 4216C1A. Again, it's the same investigation. Would anybody like to start the discussion, or are we ready to entertain a motion?
Member Voss, I think it's pretty clear that based on Exhibit 3 and the evidence that they did not respond in a timely fashion. So I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
Member Voss, we find that the City of Atascadero Street and Storm Drains is in violation of 4216.3C1A, failure to provide an electronic positive response before the legal start date and time.
Member Bianchini, I second.
Roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Del Toro,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to sanctions, and the recommended sanctions are the completion of the board's education course.
Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the City of Atascadero City Council that it finds the City of Atascadero Street and Storm Drains in violation of 4216.3C1A, and that the respondent be ordered to take the board's education course.
Del Toro, I second.
Okay, roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Del Toro,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Okay. So now, let's see, we finished this one and this one, so we did now we have
Number 8.
number 8, which is the decision on NOPV to Reliance Fence Company, and that's case number 01555W6J5P1. And so I'd like to invite anyone that's in the observation deck to come back. Randy can come back now, right? Okay. The penalty box.
So we go wake them up?
Probably taking that.
Can somebody get them? Or, okay. Okay. Yeah. He's back. All right. So we're on action item number 8, which is, again, the investigation of CAS 01555W6J5P1. So let me go to that one, and let me just go over the executive summary. Let's see what we have. Okay. The date of the incident is July 10th, 2023. However, on July 26, 2023, Southern California Gas Company submitted notification of this incident to the California Underground Safety Board. The notification stated that the underground infrastructure belonging to SoCal Gas Company has been damaged by the Reliance Fence Company, which had been excavating without a ticket. The case was assigned to one of our investigators. Let's see. The gist of this
is they knew better.
Yeah, the gist of this is that the recommendations from staff is that they were in violation of 42162B, which is failure to notify the Regional Notification Center before excavating, 42164C2, which is failure to call 911 emergency services upon causing damage, and 42164C3, which is failure to report damage to the Regional Notification Center within 48 hours. So let's take them, I guess, section by section, because that's how we do it. I did not see any evidence, and by their own account, that they admitted to failure to notify the Regional Center before excavating. And I do want to say, before we go too far, that they sent us a letter. And the letter goes like this. To whom it may concern, I, Christopher Booker, have contacted SoCal Gas to set up a safety meeting with them. We also sent in an email to the Underground Safety Board to set up an education course for myself and all of our employees so they know the importance of doing a USA ticket on all jobs. We're doing all the steps to make sure this doesn't happen again. This would be our first time missing a dig ticket due to a customer not willing to wait longer than he wanted, and from now on, this will not happen anymore. We will tell the customer we must have a USA before the ticket can start, and if they don't want to wait that long, we will send them somewhere else so we can follow the safety rules and not have another incident. Attached are our USA tickets that have been done in the past and the email showing we're doing our part and trying to get meetings set up so my crew and I know the importance of it all. Please forgive our mistakes as this will never happen again. As to we don't have any prior violations. So, let's go back to the other things that are before them, is that the Government Code 42164C2 was failure to cause emergency services, 911, and then 42164C3, which is failure to report damages to the Regional Notification Center within 48 hours. So it sounds like from this letter, they're saying that they're very sorry. And so it doesn't sound like they have any information that contradicts what all is in this report. I couldn't find any information that contradicts these violations. So let's start the discussion if anybody else found anything, but it seems like they realized that they violated these three items of Government Code 4216.
Del Toro, this case was really upsetting for me when I first took a look at it, because to me, it was gross negligence, especially not calling 911 as soon as you had the leak, and eventually they had to come show up and make sure the residents were okay. So I appreciate their reply, but the severity of this was absolutely, could have been catastrophic again.
I think this is another case just like the last one where, you know, they have a contractor's license. What is the missing gap in that area to help support them to make sure that they know that this is required? I mean, it's, as we've said, we've established that this is part of them getting their license, so it's concerning.
Well, there are emergency dig procedures that they didn't even follow that. I mean, you still have to have a ticket, and if you decide to break the 48 hours and go without somebody marking, you're taking all responsibility for that. But this is, you know, hiding behind the fence, excuse the pun. You know, I mean, they didn't call it all.
And the thing that was more bothersome to me is that they kept referring back to the residents. Well, we assumed the resident was going to call. We assumed, you know, a lot of assumptions there. And as a professional company, that's just basic common sense.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. Regardless, if you're going if the resident's going to dig, he has to call. If he hires a contractor, the contractor has to call.
And I think that's something that keeps coming up is that there's a gray area that contractors believe exists, which we know doesn't. And I think it's important to send the message that it doesn't exist. Just because you're working at a homeowner's house doesn't mean you're exempt from the law. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to kind of remind them, because they did point to the homeowner like somebody, you know, they should have done it. They should have called 911. They should call the gas company. Why should two people, what did it say? It would be bad if two people called the same number at the same time. I was like, what?
Happens all the time.
I'm like, they do have call waiting these days. So
yeah, there's a lot of, remember, John, a lot of problems with this. You know, being a contractor, they're using power equipment, and auger is definitely a dangerous underground weapon that needs to be, you know, carefully used. So they should know their business. And I think the follow-up, not having a ticket, I appreciate his letter and response. However, you look at they didn't call 911. I think there was a thing that he believes his office called 411, asking for information or something. I don't know. But in any case, this wasn't the way to do it. And I'm thinking that, you know, a licensed contractor better know the basics in this. So your people are trained, and so the message needs to be sent to them that this isn't just a first-time violation.
I do want to have an action item with staff. I think it's come time that we have some sort of, maybe not like this year, obviously, it's almost over, but like within the next couple of years, we need to put together some kind of meeting where we meet with CSLB to go over where the gap is, because it's getting bigger, and there's more and more pressure, I think, with just the way the world is these days to get a job done and get paid. But we got to figure out a way to do that safely. So we do need to have some kind of discussion. I mean, it goes beyond this case. It's like just a trend we're seeing. So if we could take an action item for that.
Member Bianchini, I'm on the Yukon board with a member that's on the state license board. And when these action items come to the state license board, their board doesn't look at them. Their staff just indicates what they want to do. So, and he was kind of troubled by that we're sending these there and that staff handles them, not their board, which is interesting, but just
We need to have a
Point of
summit, yeah,
information.
we need to have a summit for sure.
Yeah, Member Charlotte, I absolutely agree. There is such a disconnect on what these owners and these supervisors and all these people that are out there working and they come through the CSLB that we're missing basic stuff like calling 911 when you have a gas leak. I mean, that's to protect, get somebody out there right away and get this thing fixed. And I think at a minimum, some kind of a letter from the CSLB out to everybody that tells all these owners to read the law and you are now being held to this thing. There's no more, if you have something like this, maybe money is what's going to get their attention. But we need to bring them in and working with them, see what we could do to educate these, at least start at the owners or some kind of broadcast that they might be able to put out to them at a minimum that we're looking at this stuff and people are going to, have to answer for these things. But, not even calling 911 when you have an active gas leak. I mean,
Just put dirt over it.
I mean, he didn't know what he was supposed to do. I mean, that's his answer for some of his. So I agree. Let's absolutely bring them in and work with them on how we can show them some of these examples and how we could work together to come up with a solution.
Okay, so for this case, I think the first thing we need to do is determine if they're in violation. It sounds like they are, so maybe we can make a motion to move on that part, and then we can discuss sanctions after?
Yep, we can go ahead and make the motions here.
Okay.
Okay, Member Vosser, I move that we find Reliance Fence Company, Inc. In violation of 4216.2B, failure to notify the Regional Notification Center before excavating.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Charland,
Yes.
Del Toro,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes?
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, now we'll move on to the second item?
Yep. Member Voss, I move that we find Reliance Fence Company, Inc. in violation of 4216.4C2, failure to call 911 emergency services upon causing damage.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
Okay. Roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Charland,
Yes.
Del Toro,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes?
Voss,
Yes.
Now we'll move on to the third item, C3.
Member Voss, I move that we find Reliance Fence Company, Inc. in violation of 4216.4C3, failure to report damage to the Regional Notification Center within 48 hours.
Member Bianchini, I'll second.
All right, let's do roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Charland,
Yes.
Del Toro,
Yes.
Johns,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes?
Voss,
Yes.
Okay, so now let's have the deeper discussion of sanctions, and just so that we're to Member Johnson's comments earlier, just to make sure that we're always following the same sanctions. I lost my paper again. Let's go over what that requirement is, which I put away. It's in a very safe place here in this pile. Okay, here it is. So we are allowed to figure out if sanctions are appropriate based on the severity of the incident, the fact that the gravity of risk of actual injury or death, environmental or property damage, the degree of culpability, which may be measured in part by whether there were intervening acts or omissions by other persons, respondent's history of violations, respondent history of work conducted without violation, efforts taken by the respondent to prevent the violation, and once the violation occurred, efforts taken to mitigate the safety consequences of the violation, which I think 5 is kind of what we're talking about, 1 and 5, where we're concerned. Respondent voluntary notified one call center, board or jurisdictional state agency, cooperation with state agencies during the investigation, appropriateness of the sanctions to the size of the business of the respondent, including any effect on the respondent's ability to continue to do business, economic gain from the violation without reducing any of the subsequent costs. Respondent had received previous information letters from board, and any other factors. So there's that, and, okay, so those are the main ones that we can use to determine the severity of sanctions. And I think we've been pretty consistent about that part of it. So how do you guys want to move forward on this? I heard a lot of 1 in 5, which is the gravity and risk, and then the respondent steps to prevent the violation from, getting bigger or to mitigate safety concerns.
So Member Voss here, there is some similarities between the first case that we had today that had the 3 same violations. I do notice reading the report, they did call both PG&E and Southern California Gas, not knowing who the vendor was. So at least that got done. But yeah, the fire department showed up, 911, and I'm not sure about, fire department showed up, but I think that was done by the gas company, according to this report. So this contractor just seems to have been more, they think they went into this thing knowing that it wasn't right. And I guess that's what's really bothersome to me, that comes to the surface. At least they acknowledge it, right? To be consistent, we got the $1,000 fine that we did with the last guy. But if the board thinks that these guys just were trying to get away with it, I'd go higher.
So I think kind of what I've observed between this one and the last one is there's different levels, and I think we talked about it, of people that are working. So there's, maybe the person that sends us the letter was like, oh my God, we didn't do the right thing, and then taking that control back on the floor. But it's that we have that gap with the boots. Mm-hmm. Every time I say it, it's Marjorie's face. She's so cute. So I think there's a gap there. So how do we address that? I think we've consistently held to the 1 to 5. And we are allowed to consider reduction or the degree of monetary penalty can be, are you willing to comply with an order for corrective action, cooperation? So I think that I'm okay with the $1,000 that you're suggesting, because there was an act of hey, look, we didn't have this issue before. But I think that there's some severe issues that on the floor level, on the boot level, which is really where a lot of these issues are.
Member Bianchini, some of that, in reading the report, was also in the management. He was concerned that if they weren't able to get to it then, and as he put it, squeeze it in, then it would be 3 weeks on their schedule before they got it back, and that was going to upset the owner. And so management took a risk.
Yeah.
When they did that. He knew that there was a risk, and it wasn't anybody but him, and said that he tried to squeeze it in.
Yeah, so the 3 weeks means no weeks, right? If they postpone it, then it could be somebody else.
Yeah, in his letter of apology, I should have went ahead and told the owner if he wanted to force it to go to someone else. No, you should have said that anyways, because you still had to do your 811.
So how do we want to do it?
Member Johns, I think the severity of this one is a good example. A lot of these things happen and nothing occurs, and they go along with it. But this time he hit a gas line, and there was subsequent failures on that. So I think they are responsible for being an example for us to show the severity of it. We need to document that. And I think the $1,000, I was thinking, in my own mind, it'd be $2,000. I don't know how that will impact them, but it is, I think, a severe warning message we need to send. So I'm okay with 1,000, but I could even go higher.
Okay, I'm good with that too.
Member Charlene. So what's troubling to me is where they state we did not know that was something we were supposed to do by calling 911. And to me is, yeah, you call the owner of the lines, or in this case, they called a couple of people because they didn't know who it was, who's going to come out to repair. But what 911 does is when they send out patrols and send out people is to protect the public, getting them out of harm's way. And that's where the serious of this is. They didn't know what way this was going to go, if it's going to ignite or do something. But it's that statement of, it didn't know what you're supposed to do. And that statement is just troubling to me. Is how you're in a business that long and you didn't know what to do when you have a gas leak.
When I read this one, and there was another one that they went home in the middle of it, that, like, I can't remember which case that was, but the person just went home. I'm like, if that happened in your neighborhood, you would definitely be calling 911 because you'd be afraid your house would blow up, or, like your house would be your home, your residence, your family. I just don't understand where that separation occurs, where, like, hey, this is somebody else's place, but in my house, if this happened, they would definitely be calling 911, or at least the gas company or something, So I don't understand that. So I agree with you. So how do we want to do this for sanctions? Obviously, education is important. We're at least $1,000. And it sounds like if we're looking at the appropriate sanctions, we're looking at 1 and 5 as a reason. The letter, we say we appreciate it. We could go either way. We have the guidelines to go either way.
Member Voss, I think, I just keep thinking about it. They knew they were doing wrong to begin with, and they, like Ron said, they made a decision. I'm thinking not comfortable going to 5, but maybe 2,500.
You guys are nice. I first put $25,000. I was so mad.
Well, the thing is, we really want the education, right? That's how we're going to hopefully change behavior too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with 2,500. I would double it.
Remember, Charlotte, I just want to be kind of consistent, and not hitting, all these just different, numbers, because they all kind of do have similarities. So is that, because I know you guys did do one when that was 1,000?
Yeah, we did 1,000, but Yeah, and the reason was we only had a number 1 on the other one. So this one we have a 1 and a 5, but we also, I'm like, we need a flow chart, but we have a 1 and a 5, but then we have, like, we admit guilt, and then they're trying to show the history of not having this incident before. But then I think what Bianchini was saying was there was a knowledge that this could result in the loss of business, so there was a risk taken, and then you were saying that they didn't know what to do, which doesn't seem like an honest, so that could fall under 2, which is degree of culpability, which may be measured in part whether they're intervening acts or omissions by other persons. So if we take it that way, then we have a 1, 2, and a 5. So now we have 3 times what the 1 was. So,
Member Johnson, I think I agree with being consistent, right? And I understand the violations, but he did state in his letter that he has scheduled a safety meeting with the gas company. So, and he's going to do training. So I think doing through the training with the gas company, understanding, what the laws are and what you can do, particularly around the gas pipeline, I think, $1,000 would suffice right now. I don't know going up any higher at this point, because we're about training and educating.
We're about safety as well.
Safety, right.
Keeping everybody safe.
So to review, on the sanction side of severity, we have something that could be a 1 and a 5 that we've all kind of agreed to, a 2, which is omission, and then on the positive side, we have that they're willing to make the correction. They've taken the first step to reach out to the agency, the jurisdiction, and they are also trying to show that they haven't had this issue in the past. So those are just, kind of how this is lining up, but it's really up to how, how do we want to proceed?
All for a motion.
Okay, I'm calling for a motion.
Okay. Member Voss, I move that we recommend to the California State License Board that the Reliance Fence Company, Inc. is in violation of 4216.2B failure to, just 4216.2B, 4216.4C2, 4216.4C3, and that the respondent be ordered to the board's education course along with a fine of $1,000.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Member Bianchini, yeah, and that would go to the state license board, on their call second.
Okay. Roll call.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Del Toro,
No, I think the fine should
John?
be higher.
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Okay. It sounds like we're done with all the NOPVs. So I guess the question is, we've been waiting for item number 37 for a very long time, and we have about 20 minutes. Do you think 20 minutes is enough time to do our much-awaited item 37, which is the 2022 annual report to the governor and legislature?
I can certainly do it, depending on how much you want to talk about it.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Here to present to you the 2022 annual report to the governor and legislature. It is a statutory requirement to provide this once a year to the governor and legislature. It is
Really hard to hear you.
It is a, can you hear me?
Is your mic on? Yeah. It's
Okay. It is to describe the activities of that year, as well as any recommendations to the governor and legislature that the board has. You discussed this in November 2022, and the results of that discussion are what is in the report for you. Just some things that the report discusses. It talks about, and it does highlight a number of the cases that the board has looked at and policy issues related to that case, policy and enforcement issues. First, it discusses the San Francisco case where there was potholing issues, and then there were planning and design issues both. So the report discusses that. The report discusses the challenges of large numbers of tickets by a small number of operators going into specific areas. I think there's a graph in there showing the giant increase in tickets for Calaveras County Water District through a poll testing initiative. Also talks briefly about the challenges that the Napa FireRise Community Foundation had in getting their, putting in all of the tickets for the various different, I think it's about 400 different excavations that they were having volunteers do. And it talks about electronic positive response and how the state's operators are uneven in terms of performing that response. And then lastly, it identifies for no-call damages that through investigations we found that the specialty contractors are especially, we find more often are the no 811 damages rather than, say, the general engineering or general building contractors, indicating that specialty contractors are better appropriate for targeting education outreach. The recommendations are two. First, that the board recommend that utility operators be required to participate in a planning and design ticket. And that the second recommendation is that the board be authorized to place reasonable advance notification requirements and utility coordination requirements on excavators planning to make a significant number of excavation notifications to address that particular large number of excavations for water districts. and happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. So I guess we will go first to all of you that have not been able to talk for the last several hours. This is your opportunity to have public comments regarding the 2022 annual report to the governor and the legislature. Would anyone like to make public comments? All right, let's move on to the webinar. It's only Carl, right? Is that it, or are there other people? There's 15 people.
Yes.
No
there are no comments at this time.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to board member discussion. Who would like to start the discussion?
Member Del Toro, I've reviewed it, and it seems to encompass everything that we had discussed, so I think it's ready to go.
So just as a question, if we say we want to change something, does it have to start the cycle all over again?
No, it does not.
Okay, then my last name is Alt164 to have an Enya on it.
Alt164.
Yes, thank you. Everything else is fantastic, but I would like the Enya on my name. All right, if there's no discussion, I'm so excited that we finally got to discuss this. It's a great report. We would like to entertain a motion to approve the 2022 annual report to the governor and legislature. Anybody like to make that motion?
Member Del Toro, I make a motion to accept the 2022 annual report to the governor and legislature as written.
Member Johnson, a second.
Thank you. Let's do roll call.
Bianchini?
Yes.
Charland?
Yes.
Del Toro?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Munoz?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Hooray. Okay. Let's see, what's next on this thing and see if we have, no, we have one call center. So I want to spend a lot of time asking you lots of questions. Be ready. Okay, so I think, yeah, I want you guys to be fresh. Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and recess the meeting until tomorrow at 9 a.m. Same place, but 9 a.m. So I'm going to go ahead and recess it now.